I think we are live. Let me get this streaming link real quick. And I'm going to hear myself talk again, which is going to be so embarrassing again. So I got to hurry up so I don't hear myself talk again. Copy link. Let me go back here. Okay, let me join the voice.
13-year-old. It was amazing. Hi, Diva. Welcome.
Hello. I'm setting up my stream right now, so you guys are currently live, and they can hear you, unless you want me to mute you.
Cool. We're just doing AV testing at the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to put myself on deafen, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yes? That's fine.
Cool. There's that, and then we're trying to set shit up. We're trying to set shit up. We're trying to set shit up. Boom. Here we go. Sit. Okay. I think you can see things. I think you can. Definitely. Wait, what's good quality? You have a great voice. Woo. Hey, everybody. How's the quality of the stream? How's the quality of the stream? How we feel about that? Okay. Good, good. Because I had to get a new fucking router, you guys. And then I had to get the podcast out for you guys, too. I had so much shit I had to do. Where's the goddamn thing I just made? There we go. Rude! There we go. Tweet. Okay, so I think we're okay now. I think we can let them hear us.
To like go over every single one of those reports, they would run out of manpower quite fast. Like
yeah,
I would probably get away. There. Yeah, I would assume I can get away with like playing League with Nick Fuentes, and I would probably be fine.
What did I walk into?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I don't even know, girl. I'm sorry.
Like, what's going on?
We're all getting our AV situated.
What's an AV? I'm not that smart.
Audio video.
Visual.
Oh shit! Liz just fucking schooled us all. I believe she's right. Audio video is like it sounds right, but I'm pretty sure she's correct.
Yeah, I think she's right too.
I'm eating cereal.
What kind of cereal?
Aldi's Frosted Flakes.
Ooh, that's good. Hmm?
Did you say Aldi's?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Aldi's
yes.
Frosted Flakes.
Aldi's is, you know,
yeah,
it's pretty good.
All these nuts in your mouth.
All these nuts.
Got him.
We're doing a little bit ASMR. I can give it to y'all while we wait.
I think
I don't want to hear you. True, no.
Totally kidding.
I don't actually know any asthma people. I don't get it. It doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't touch me.
Well, Trisha Paytas has an ASMR, and like I can't do it. Like I don't get it how people sleep to it. Like I can only laugh because I'm curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, sleep to it? I thought you're supposed to masturbate.
No. You have to hear it. You have to hear it. It is so loud and
It's not for me.
annoying sounding, and then you can hear the swallows, everything, and then she has these really long nails. So she like touches the thing and she scratches her nails, and I'm like, if this helps y'all sleep, that's fine. This actually scares me. Like, this is a nightmare. But she has good views. Trisha does, so it works. It works.
I mean, who watches this though? I don't get it. Who's it for?
Thousands.
Lonely people.
Thousands.
Men with mission.
True.
I was really upset. My favorite adult film actress stopped doing work, and she just does ASMR now, and she sells ASMR headphones, and I'm like,
That's where the
awful.
money is.
What is
Yeah.
special about them?
I don't know. It's a thing. Like, you know, like it's
the
like,
headphones.
Yeah.
They have like more they have
So
like
they,
more
like-
impact on like the tactile sounds.
What?
Like the thing is like you could, if somebody like runs their finger over something clicky, you can really feel the clicks in your ear and
I
shit.
can't do that. That scares me.
No. That's a no
It's
for
a
me.
fear problem. I have a fear problem with that. It scares me.
I just don't. No.
Okay, everybody sounds really good. We're about to go.
Well, that's good
live.
that we sound good.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns before we start? We'll get to Tuna and the introductions when he gets here.
Tuna? What's a tuna? Is that a person's name?
It's Tuna Chip. He is a wonderful streamer with a fucking awful name.
I thought we were really talking about tuna. My bad.
His name is
Like-
beautiful.
My bad.
Yes.
That was a muy
You had
board.
tuna chips before?
Me?
Tuna
Have I
chip?
ate
Stop
tuna?
it.
Have I ate tuna chips?
Yeah,
Like
they
the
actually
fish.
sell them.
Like Jessica Simpson, like the fish
Yeah.
of the sea tuna?
Kind
Jessica
of
Simpson?
like pork rinds, but in tuna form.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I didn't know it was an actual thing.
Absolutely. That's a hell
Yeah,
no
no,
for
they're
me.
They're actual tuna chips. You can buy them.
Do you put hot sauce in them? On them?
I'm all set.
Who's gonna stop you?
I'm
I was gonna
asking
ask,
a
yeah, there's no
question.
legal
I'm
right
asking a question. Does he
against
eat it with
it.
hot sauce? I'm being nosy.
I believe you could. I think
I'm
if I was
asking
going,
no. Let the man that was advertising tuna chips tell me if he eats it with hot sauce or not. It's a yes or no.
oh, if
In all honesty, it's kind of nasty. It's not one of my favorite things to eat, but it's supposedly very healthy for you.
He dips
So,
them in ranch.
I wouldn't.
Dip 'em in ranch!
Yeah, I would not put hot sauce on it because that'd be desecration of hot sauce.
Ooh,
Desperado, I'm not sure if you're using the correct mic there. It sounded pretty choppy coming through. I think you might be using a webcam mic or something.
Pardon, what was that?
I think you might be using your
input you have. Which input you have for your microphone?
That's what she
Because
said.
it sounds like a webcam mic. Is
That's
it?
what she said.
Is that what she said? Check what input you have for your
Yeah,
microphone.
check your input.
My
That's what
IT
she
girlfriend
said.
called me up and
Input?
said, "Hey, check your input."
Check your input.
Check your input.
Jeez.
I'm sorry. I'm trolling.
We do a little.
Give me just a second here.
okay, there we go. Okay, yeah,
I'll
that makes
try
way more
to
sense to
behave.
actually have myself on here.
What's going on?
Yo, my
Tuna.
man Tuna Chip is a Hall & Oates fan. That's what I'm talking about.
Is this audio better?
It
Oh
is
my
better
god,
than
the
what your phone
bunny!
was.
Yes, I'm here for it! Yes, the bunny! Yes!
I love
I'm
your
here for it.
background.
Yes,
Thank
I'm here
you.
for it. Yeah.
Thank you. It's the 10-hour challenge, so it won't be going away anytime soon.
So I'm wearing like my Sailor Moon shirt, so that's what I'm doing.
Hey,
That's nice.
And then
I've
I
got
have
something
my
actually-
background already. I already represent. So here
are we
go.
already live?
I just made us live.
What's
Since
going
Tuna got
on?
here.
We've been live. Like my chat has been getting the tea over here. They know
We're just
about
talking
tuna
shit.
chips. They know that you don't eat it with hot sauce.
The
Like they
deep
know
lore.
everything.
You know about the IT
I'm
girlfriend.
correcting that record in just a moment. I'll be right back.
Uh-oh.
Oh no! Get in the hot sauce.
Wait, what is that chair he's sitting in? What the hell?
Yay! My video is done. Processing. I'm excited.
Okay, so thank you everybody for showing up. Not a single person canceled. You're all fucking amazing.
Woo woo.
This all went together very, very smoothly for my first panel. I appreciate all of you. So I'm gonna go around and have you all introduce yourselves. I'm gonna introduce the topic first, and then I'm gonna have you all introduce yourselves and just give like a baseline of what you think about the first topic. And because I don't want this to devolve into everybody just talking about what anime they like, go ahead and say like a word or two about your favorite anime. That way we don't get like tangled up in this like hot mess, because everybody here's a fucking weeb and it'll get fucking crazy if I don't give you guys some space in the beginning to say like that these are my favorite anime and something like that. So take the time in the introduction to also do that, please. I'm just gonna go left to right, top to bottom. So Diva, you're first. But the first topic is anime bad? And
That's
in order
literally
to
what
explain,
it is.
in order to explain the context behind this, I have to tell you guys why this question arose in me. About 2 years ago, I had a conversation with somebody, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. Somebody told me that if you watch anime, you're going to inevitably end up watching hentai, and if you watch hentai, you're going to end up watching lolly hentai, and then you're going to end up watching CP. So therefore, anime leads directly to child abuse, and the person didn't make a very good argument. However, that doesn't mean there's no argument to be had at all. And having that said, that also brings up the question: is does anime promote violence? Is anime appropriate for children? Even though some anime may be appropriate for children, does this allow kids to have full access of all anime because parents don't watch what they're doing? And what is the implications of this? So I know everybody here loves anime, but I think that we're all honest enough to say that we could see issues if there were some. So Diva, I'm gonna throw it over to you. Tell us who you are, what you think.
So
Yeah.
Do I respond to the first prompt, or do I just spill my guts about who I am?
You spill your guts about who you are, and then you respond to the prompt.
So both prompts.
It's just like the broad prompt, and you can say what you think about it, and we're gonna get more specific as we go on.
Okay, so I'm gonna try my best. Hi, my name is Daphoenixdiva. I'm a weeb. I've been a certified weeb ever since Toonami, because back in the day, when I used to come home after school, they used to play Sailor Moon after school. And I remember when I first saw my first Sailor Moon episode, and I was absolutely in love. I was like, who are these gorgeous girls? These girls are so pretty. They are so cool. They are so badass. And I can't really, because it's like a real big fog. So, I don't know for sure if Sailor Moon went first or Pokemon went first because of WB Kids. For the young folks, there was this thing called Kids WB. And after school and on Saturday mornings, they used to give us cartoons. We didn't have Netflix. We couldn't binge watch. We had to wait!
Fuck yeah.
We had to wait! I come from that generation. If I want to know if Ash caught that Caterpie, I had to wait.
I missed the season finale twice of Pokemon when I was a kid. I was so mad.
Shout out to the therapists that are still helping us get through that. Shout out to y'all. Now, regarding I'm obviously Sailor Moon. Those are my bitches. But I do watch other anime. I just binge watched Spy Family. Love it. 10 out of 10. Amazing. Love it. And also, #1 anime of all time, meaning that not one episode missed. It was consistent. It got the job done. That, to me, belongs to Outlaw Star, which I also saw that at Toonami. Gene Starwin is that, okay? He is that. He is an alien superstar. Unique. That is who Gene Starwin is. Period. Poo. Now, regarding the prompt, do I think anime is bad? No. I don't agree with the fact of if you watch anime, it can lead you to watching porn. You could say that about anything. You could say watching Wheel of Fortune can lead you to watching porn. Are you, really? Really? If you want to go watch porn, you go watch porn. That's what you do. It's not because you were watching Wheel of Fortune and you saw how the wheel spun and you liked how they said, I would like to buy a vowel. That's not how it works. Okay? So I disagree with that. Now, about is it good or bad for children? Well, if we're going to classify and say that animation automatically means it belongs to children and it's garnered towards children, then let's talk about how the Flintstones was for adults originally, and it was slotted for adults. And before The Simpsons and all these other shows, the Flintstones had the longest running television show. Actually had a storyline, actually had marital issue, actually had a birth come in. Yeah, it was the Flintstones. So I think the whole concept of children watching anime is bad. No. And number 2, saying what if they accidentally get into anime that is inappropriate? Well, that's a parenting issue because your kids can get into a movie that's inappropriate too. How about that one? Take responsibility. I know. We're allergic to that word. And that's my statement.
Thank you very much, Diva. Desperado Sensei, who are you, and what are your thoughts?
I am Desperado Sensei. I live in Japan. I've been in Japan for the last 11 years. I've been married for 8. I have 2 kids. We have a house, a mortgage. I've been here a long time. And I actually have a background in Asian language and literature. And I speak Japanese not at a fluent level, but close to fluent. And what I would say is that anime and manga in of itself is Japanese escapism. And for people in Japanese society, and it's not that manga and anime necessarily have anything with them. It's when Japanese people talk about anime, they literally are talking about any animation out there. So Disney is considered anime to Japanese people. DreamWorks is considered anime to Japanese people. All of these encompass the term anime for Japanese people. So there are different levels of what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. My children currently love One Piece, and my children are 5 and 7, and I let them watch One Piece. So, but for me, my favorite animes are Berserk and Goblin Slayer, but I prefer the more dark and nitty gritty storylines.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask you real quick: Are you married to somebody who is from Japan?
Yes, my wife is Japanese.
You are the envy of every person on this panel now. Congratulations. We're gonna throw it over.
That was amazing.
Flowtrace, what are your thoughts?
That was
What's up, guys?
amazing.
My name is Flowtrace. My favorite anime is probably Evangelion. It's I really like it for personal reasons, however, and I think I'd have to say that in terms of the best anime I've seen, I'd highly recommend Dorohedoro. I think when we talk about anime or any sort of sort of artistic medium, it's really hard, you can never be absolute about these things. Of course, anime isn't always good, it isn't always bad. The interesting question, I think, is do we think that as a sort of classification, the sphere of anime has some problems that don't seem to be true of all spheres of culture or media? And I think it's fair to say that it seems like certainly the community of people who are enthusiastic of anime certainly have some problems. Coming as a very big fan of the Warhammer 40k franchise, sometimes it's okay to like a thing and admit that, this thing, and certainly the people that like this thing, have problems. I think it's a fair criticism to say of 40k that, it is somewhat enabling of, and the community has somewhat of a problem with fascism and ethno-nationalism and these kinds of things. And it seems to be, and I'm probably going to be the least experienced here in terms of the anime community, but based off of my personal experience and what I have seen and talking to my friends who are much more into it than I, it does seem like the anime community, at least in the West, has some problems with age of consent or the sexualization of very young characters. And I think it's fair to say that obviously not all anime has this problem. That doesn't mean we should throw away the entire medium, but it's fair to say I like this medium, but it has some tendencies that are bad, and we should try to curtail those and improve them where we can.
That was
very
elegantly
correct.
and, as always, very quickly put, Flowtrace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And now for our actual anime villain, Chris Speaks. What are your degenerate thoughts on the subject?
Hi, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure. My name is Chris. It's spelled Krys, and I go by Chris Speaks on Twitch. That being said, I am expanding to Cozy TV and Google Play, so you guys watch the fuck out. Now, I play games, talk politics, social issues, relationship advice, sexual kinks, and all things weeb and degenerate. Unlike most of the panel, apparently, I'm not fucking ancient, so I watch my anime online, always have watched it online, and cannot relate to your boomer-ass struggles. Real Gs don't miss out on season finales, because we get to decide when it airs. Now, as to the actual panel's question, I would say that anime is a form of media, and as it goes with forms of media, there are some concerns, right? There are some particular concerns when it comes to anime that, while might not be anime exclusive, do run rampant in most, if not all, anime communities. Those would be things like most romance/coming-of-age anime targeting young men and being centered around the idea of a fucking heroine just sweeping in and fixing the MC, which sets unrealistic expectations. You've got varying levels of sexism. Some anime fandoms are just fucked in the head. And last but not least, you've got actual straight-up pedophilia. Now, I don't know if I believe what you've mentioned earlier about the slippery slope of CP, It sounds like a classic square and triangle argument where someone with pedophilic tendencies will probably fall down the lolly rabbit hole. But I doubt as to how many, let's just say, normal people, out of lack of a better word, would go from lolly to CP. And in terms of anime into violence, I'm going to go on a limb and assume that just as it is with games, there is absolutely no conclusive evidence pointing out this correlation, no matter how many dumb fuck politicians might want it to be so. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris Speaks. And our extra special guest, first time ever streaming, particularly with me, is my wife, Lady Taco Cat. Go ahead and give your bit about your anime that you like, and then give us your thoughts as well.
My name's Lady Taco Cat, as he just said. As far as favorite animes go, probably Code Geass and Ancient Magus's Bride. I really like a couple others, like Promise Neverland, but not the anime, the manga instead. Other than that, I think just like Chris said, like it's just like a social media and like a media. You have to watch things like I'm fine with children watching like One Piece, but probably not like Plunder or Goblin Slayer. That's about it. I just feel like you should pick and choose.
Plunder is real good.
It is real
Well, thank you very much. We're gonna go to I think the only person that does like mostly anime content. It's like just anime and drama, I think. Is that correct, Liz?
Yeah, I do a lot of different shit, honestly. My YouTube channel is called Lissama's Chaos, and it's because I do like reaction content, anime content, and I do like TV shows and movie reviews and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lot. But
my bad.
as far as animes, like favorite animes go, I'm like wearing a One Piece shirt right now because it's like one of my favorite animes ever. I have like a One Piece wall back here. It's like covered in One Piece art. I got some Evangelion back there too. Berserk. I got actually the whole manga collection because it's one of the most beautiful art that you will ever see. Kentaro Miura, honestly, his passing actually made me cry a little bit because he is one of the biggest losses we'll ever go through. But as far as the prompt, I do think that there's some anime that kids probably shouldn't see when they're young. Like when I was a kid, I saw Higurashi. I did a video about that actually because I watched it when I was like, I think I was like 11. And I probably should not have been watching that shit when I was as young as I was. Not because it's like, I wouldn't say that it's like the worst thing in the world, but that type of violence could pretty much scar a kid if, you know, let's say that you're like 6 years old and you stumble upon that shit. Probably not the best thing for a kid to see, you know? But yeah. There's some things that you should probably safeguard from your children. That's all I'll say.
Well, thank you very much, Liz Sama. And Tuna Chip, before you give your part, like, what the hell is going on over here, bud?
I didn't want to say anything, but
We're doing it.
It's a lot.
I was shocked. I was pretty sure that we were supposed to be doing a combination panel and mukbang, right? Did I not get this right?
You better eat all that fucking ramen and not waste it.
When somebody walks into a room with this body type, you know that they'll eat the entire plate of ramen.
I'm just saying.
He's not wrong.
You better eat all 4 of them motherfuckers. Shit
It's
looks
not
good
gonna-
as
For
fuck.
effort.
It's not going to be hard. It's
Shit
not going
looks
to be
good
difficult.
as fuck.
Are you gonna be able to finish it before the panel ends? That's the real question.
Ooh, T.
Oh, speed
That
run.
could be hard.
speed traps.
challenge.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about anime. Earlier, someone was talking about how in the Japanese context, anything that is an animated form of entertainment is considered anime. I think that another part of this that we need to talk about is very much so because we're also primarily talking about people who are Americans or otherwise associated to anime, what their relationship with anime is. And it's a very specific type of aesthetic. It's a very specific like subculture inside of American media. So I'm going to be mostly thinking about what exactly are we thinking about is anime. We have plenty of video games. We have plenty of properties. We have an entire subculture that is like grouped in with anime. And one of my main arguments is this idea that anime is just about the object itself, and that a person, when they're trying to get deeper into the culture, that they're always going to be moving towards the most degenerate sexual things that are available inside of the culture. It's kind of an absurd thing. Most people that get into it, what ends up happening is they diversify their interests. They become just like more broadly otaku pilled. They don't go to CP. They don't go down some weird tunnel. The main appeal to this culture and the things that happen within it and its aesthetics is not the scandalous sexuality so much as it is like a unique form of coming of age media, mainly for like young people slowly becoming adults, from a perspective that is novel and doesn't, feel the same old thing. It's a sense of difference and similarity to another culture. So that's pretty much how I'm thinking about this.
Thank you very much, Tuna Chip, for this obviously closeted lolicon take. We're going to throw it over to Watsaku. You might be the least weeby seeming based on your camera view, but I know that you are quite the weeb. So
that's because you don't see his underwear right now.
True.
You don't know the half of it.
Got the Akatsuki clouds on right now, and you don't even see it. My name's Watsaku. I'm on Twitch. I am a philanthropist, visionary, professional, philosopher, intellectual gamer, and no, I will not talk to you about any of them. I grew up on anime. I really liked it from the start. It was the first time I got to see some sort of animated genre addressing adult themes and allowing animated features to be kind of taken seriously as a vehicle for storytelling. I just remember watching Western cartoons being kind of... It was childish. Like, it was always childish. The themes were always pretty damn childish. And very rarely did they touch on anything that really lent the genre credence or value. So I remember growing up seeing anime and being like, okay, wow, this is like, I'm being treated to a delightful little snack here for my child brain to chomp on a little bit. As far as, is anime bad? Anime isn't bad, but there is bad anime. As a parent, I would plan to read any manga of whatever anime my child begins to consume, just so I can kind of see what's coming down the line. If it addresses way too like adult of themes that I think they're not ready for, I can kind of cut that off and say, hey, I know that you really like this, but it's going to get into something that we can't really go into until you're older. So from there, how about I recommend X, Y, or Z? And Daphne, you went off about some really interesting stuff. Diva, apologies.
No, not a problem.
You went off on some really interesting stuff, having to wait episodically for each episode to come out. But I'd like to throw the boomer shit at you, okay? Are you ready for this?
Okay.
I might have seen a 1 or 3 episodes of Evangelion on a VHS tape with a fan dub made. And I would have to go to an anime convention, and I would have to ask around and try to find somebody that had bootleg VHSs of maybe episodes 3 through 6. Maybe it was 4, 5, and 6. Maybe, I don't know. It was whatever we could get our gritty little hands on to figure out if, well, what the fuck happens? Why is this crying teenager so fucked up? Like, what are we going to do? The struggle was real, all right? Everyone has it good. It is what it is. That's not supposed to deride anybody. Obviously, perception to anime has increased in a very positive way over the years. I remember being in school, and if you liked anything that wasn't shown on the television for everybody's eyes to see, you were a social outcast anytime you wanted to kind of talk about it or engage with it. I remember trying to play Pokemon Red and Blue on my Game Boy Black and White version, and immediately being given shit for it, and sometimes being assaulted for it. It is what it is. That's just life sometimes. But we've come a long way.
We laid the groundwork. We laid the groundwork.
That's right. We took the hits. That's what it is. But yeah. I think anime is a fantastic vehicle for telling stories. I'm glad that it has gained much more popularity as time has gone on. There are more problematic parts of it, which I'm sure that we'll get into. It is a different culture. It is a different type of people that are into that kind of thing. And generally speaking, the less it is accepted and brought into the light of broader culture, the more divergent it's going to be from things that we find acceptable. So now that we're having those conversations as a culture and we're able to say, well, this, and this makes it okay, and this doesn't, we can start to kind of pick and choose what we want to see and what we don't. So that's where I stand on anime. Oh, and my favorite anime is Konosuba.
Wait, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep, I forgot I'm gonna push to talk so that we don't echo.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Wotsaku. So just a quick right here. I'm gonna open up the panel. However, things get too crazy. If I can't tell what the hell people are saying because people are talking over each other, I'm gonna start muting people. We'll reset. If you feel like you can't get in anywhere, you can feel free to raise your hand, or in the case of the digital creatures that are here, you can like message me in my Twitch chat, and I will make sure that you get in when there's an appropriate break in the
Way
conversation.
ahead of you with the hand. Don't worry.
Oh, T!
Something-
T!
Wait, hold on. I think I've got something here as well. I just need to find it.
I want to
Ah.
see all the hands. Yes!
There you go.
Yes!
Oh, he has actual tea.
Yes, the T.
Like it.
Yes.
That is actually incredible. If I see that people are getting stuck on something or people are looping, I will step in. I'm probably going to be a little bit more heavy-handed with moderating than the majority of panels that we see, just so that we can actually know what the hell is going on here and everybody's voices get heard to some degree. So you guys can go ahead and talk freely about this. Let's get this figured out. Is anime actually bad? And to be clear, the person that said that to me, I think is really, really fucking stupid. Their argument was really bad, but it brought up some interesting questions that I never considered before.
Whoa, don't blow up Chris like that. Come on.
You weren't supposed
think,
to say.
That's fucked up, man. I think we all agree that like anime isn't like inherently bad or anything like that. It's not some like great evil. I think the interesting and difficult question is, do we think that anime does legitimately have some unique problems that, you know, are worthy of criticism? And where do those problems come from? And ideally, can we get a solution from those?
I mean, the thing is, I would say that the issues don't have to be entirely unique. It could be enough that those issues are a lot more pervasive in anime than there are in other forms of media, right? Like, pedophilia is a thing everywhere. But, like, in anime,
has a
it
unique
seems like
problem with it.
people... Yeah, exactly. So in anime,
And
it
age of
seems to be the
consent is
case...
different in Japan than it is in
well,
the
technically
United
it's
States.
not, though, right? It's...
No, I mean, not the age of consent, but like the age to get married, I think is quite lower. And they
well, the
don't-
age of consent in Japan, as far as I know, and Desperado Sensei will be more knowledgeable on this than me,
Yeah,
is
he can
13.
answer it, yeah.
But the thing is, there are prefectures in Japan, which work similarly to states in the US, and none of the prefectures have their age of consent at lower. I think the lowest is 16, and most are 18.
Right, but like, didn't you just say 4?
That is correct, but there is something you should note, that there is a law on the books inside Japan that's a Meiji era law, that the age of consent is technically 13, and this was designed during the Meiji period as a means of families transferring wealth. And that was its only purpose. It is no longer, you're no longer able to utilize that. The only person that's actually able to utilize that is the emperor. In the case the emperor is 13, in which he has to marry somebody who is 13, because the emperor is outside the prefectures technically.
Yeah, like, I'm not suggesting everyone in Japan is cool with 13. I was just bringing up the point that the age of consent is lower. And I know when I was watching Sword Art Online...
Lower than what?
Well, it's lower. Well, I'm just saying, like, in America, you can't get married at 16. You have to get married at 18.
What?
You can
There's-
get married at 16 in America.
Well, with
There are
permission,
some-
with permission.
Yeah, there.
Yes, of course.
Depending upon what.
You have to have parental sign off.
Yeah,
my permission.
Basically,
now,
every state, if you want to go under 18, you need some sort of special exceptions.
that was
But some
my
of those
point.
exceptions can get really low.
but that
The
was
same
my
is true for
point.
Japan, though, as well. You can,
Yeah,
with
same is
parents'
true for
permission,
Japan.
you can get married under the age of 18 as well.
To transfer wealth, yes.
Yeah, that was my point.
International unity right there.
Yeah,
Amazing.
but like my point is that unless you get parental consent, you cannot get married till you're 18. That was the point I was making. Also, And then there's like things like with Sword Art Online, like with Kirito, and I can't remember his like adopted sister's name, and people thought it was weird.
Suguha, right? I think.
I don't remember her name because like that show has completely. We could have a different panel about Sword Art Online. Like we could be talking about that all day, every day. I had like, what was that? Anyways,
Truly the most contentious of all anime.
yeah, like another panel we could do it. Let's just the point I'm trying to make is, in our eyes, seeing someone that they found out that they were cousins, right? And she has a crush on her cousin. Typically on the western side, like United States, you don't fuck your cousin. I know there's certain communities that are into that, but you don't fuck your cousin. You don't look at your cousin and be like, yeah, I want to tap that ass. Like we kind of don't do that. That's kind of like, that's a family member. We don't do that. And I, to my understanding, I guess I could be wrong, like in Japan, it's not that big of a deal. So there's like cultural differences like that.
In some countries, it happens.
Yeah, it's cultural differences. So like,
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, parents should be responsible with what your kids are consuming. And if your child has a question about it, I'd be like, no, we don't do that shit. Now, I think that people need to be responsible of knowing that there's certain things that are appropriate for certain ages and there's things that are not appropriate. For me, I know that when Dragon Ball Z was going on and when the Frieza saga, when Krillin died, it was very, very frustrating that there was no one I could talk to about that, about me seeing the first time Goku going Super Saiyan. It was super, super frustrating. I just had to like keep that to myself. So it's just like, to me, it's just a lot of like, it's just shifting the blame and not really holding people accountable of what's acceptable in their households.
We didn't address the main. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. I spoke earlier. It's only fair.
We didn't address the main reason that anime could be claimed to be a good gateway to create like sort of a highway to CP, which is that animated things are far harder to legislate. It is far easier to make sexual content, which has people that have the graphical depiction of being young in a sexual context. It's just way easier to do it and mass distribute it. There are all kinds of arguments that can be made all the time. It puts us at like the knife's edge of exactly what we can and cannot do in terms of law. Because at a certain point, you're like, well, can we make this illegal? No, it's literally drawings. And then they'll be like, well, can we make drawings illegal because they are degenerate to the culture or something? You start going really far down the line of talking about things like Pearl Harbor and the previous history that America has. With the Japanese, you're going to be finding like an ethnic cleansing argument really close down the line. So there's not really an easy answer in any direction. I think that's the main reason people are worried about this leading to CP, is that they're just like, well, you can draw something that looks just like a 5-year-old but made out of pen and pastel. Is that not
I agree with that. I agree with that because there are, and with Genshin Impact, there are, and I'm not trying to attack the artist.
Genshin on my impact until I keep going. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to attack the artist, but there are characters that are drawn in that game that look extremely young, but they make it very clear that they're not young. They're actually hundreds of years old. And we see that in Overlord with certain characters there that they look like children, and some of them do act like children and some of them don't act like children, and it's because they're extremely old. So especially when we're dealing with so like Interview with the Vampire, that's more of Western works, and people could criticize the scene with Kristen Dunst and Brad Pitt where they shared a kiss, where even though her character was a child, and in the book she was even younger, she even looked like how it was described in the book, it was like a toddler close to 4 years old, but she was actually like over 100 years old and had the thoughts and the maturity of a grown woman, but look like a child, right? So we have those types of literature, not just in anime, but we have it on our side too, of these conversations of, it looks like a child, it sounds like a child, but they actually have the maturity of a grown adult woman, right? And you could do that with Sailor Moon with Chibiusa. Chibiusa is actually 200 years old. I think maybe a little bit older, but she looks like a 4-year-old. So she has very mature feelings, which leads her to want to fuck her dad. So there's that. So there's a lot of those weird gray areas, and it's not just with anime, it's even in Western civilization, like I brought up Interview with the Vampire.
And it's in horror movies too. Like, didn't they have The Orphan, where it's like the villain is a like older woman who is actually in the body that she appears to be like 8 years old, but she tries to sleep with the father of the freaking family that adopted her. It's like, this is everywhere. It's not just in anime.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but the thing is, we should attack the authors, right? Like, one of the reasons why it is the case that like lolly is as popular as it is because people in the anime community will bend over backwards to allow themselves to tickle their fucking pickle to a character that looks like they're 9, but in reality they're actually a 7,000-year-old demigod of war, secretly actually a dragon, and very possibly a stepsister of the main character.
Yeah,
and
actually,
I mean, law-wise, if just to, because Tuna raised something interesting with the law. I think with this one, we would have to go with the I know it when I see it type of law, right? Like, I can't give you a guideline on how to draw the lines to make the character not look like a prepubescent child, but I know if it's a prepubescent child when I see it.
I got
and
a
the
list.
problem with the 7K-year-old cop-outs is that in most cases, they also don't have the maturity of grown adult women, right? In the most pervasive cases, which we're apparently also fine with in the sense that they're being aired on TV. They look like kids, they act like kids, they speak like kids, they are kids, and essentially someone's fucking raw dogging them in the background. If you draw CP, you're a fucker and you need to be reeled in.
I thought you were talking about Little Rascals for like 2 seconds, because that actually was a thing, like Little Rascals, like little kids acting like adults. And then before they had movies air, so like this is during the Shirley Temple days, it was a whole thing, and it's really, really disgusting. They would have little toddlers dress up like adults and act like adults. And it suggested it was for people that were pedophiles. And there was some pedophilic images in Shirley Temple movies. Notice that she was always in a man's lap. She was always showing her diaper. She was always kissing a man. So this is a problem that's just, it's not just anime, it's an overall problem. And even to knock on more Western animation, look at Family Guy. Stewie is actually a little kid. He's actually a baby. It's not like he's like a demigod that's over 100 years old. He's actually a baby. And there's been several episodes that have been completely fucked of what he's done.
Well, hold on. That's more of a Flanderization of a character kind of thing that goes on. Like, I know what you're saying. It's just like...
So the episode of him getting pregnant with Brian's kids was appropriate?
That is MPreg, all right? We're talking about a different thing here.
Yeah.
This is complete... We're off in the weeds, okay?
Yeah.
I think it's the case that anime
wasn't there.
I think it's the case that anime does have a problem that is somewhat unique, right? The problem itself isn't unique, but the degree to which it has it is somewhat unique. That's not to say there aren't other mediums that also have this problem, right?
Well, if anime is mainstream.
So Family Guy isn't?
Even more mainstream than anime. Zelda Breath of the Wild has a character that's thousands of years old. It's one of the most well-selling. It's the definitive game of the Nintendo Switch. It's in every child's hand in America right now. They probably have this game. They do have a character that's sexually depicted, or personality-wise, they're flirting with the main character. They look like a child. This is not just an anime. It's a thing that's inside of culture, period.
It's not just an anime, but there's a question of degrees. I've not played Breath of the Wild, but I'd be pretty surprised if the character you're describing is as bad as like some of the examples I am thinking of in anime that have already been discussed. So I think we can acknowledge that this problem is not unique to anime, and there are other pieces of medium that are also bad in this degree. But it's like, I don't think that ultimately undermines the point that like it seems like there is a problem in the anime community with this kind of thing, and we should be seeking to like curtail that. And we should also be seeking to curtail that like if it's a problem in Family Guy or in other like mediums.
Yeah, like the reason why I brought it up, I'm not saying I have an issue with Family Guy. The reason I'm bringing it up is like when people that are detractors towards anime, they refuse to look at what we have done in the United States.
There's definitely a double standard problem. I agree
that's
that.
my main gripe with these people. It's like everything you're saying, we can bring it what we've done. Tiny Toon Adventures, we could bring it there. Looney Tunes, we could bring it there. Rugrats, we could bring it there. Little Rascals, we could bring it there. So it's just like hypocritical. That's like the best wording I can
I get the sentiment, but I think the problem you would have is that to a certain level, like, it's not that I don't care about the hypocrisy of it, but here's the thing. I don't really consume all that much Western media, right? Excluding maybe Twitch and some YouTube. I mostly just watch anime. That's kind of like my media of preference. And so when I see a shitloads of lolly shit being normalized in anime, I don't particularly care if this is also a thing in the Western world, because I don't particularly care about the Western world media, right? I'm not saying this isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying in an ideal world we shouldn't get rid of it. I'm just saying because of my own biases and because of me not consuming that media, I, broadly speaking, don't really give a shit.
Well, that's honest.
Well, also, real quick, I think what Saku was trying to say about Family Guy is that when Stewie gets pregnant, or where like it's heavily implied that he had like gay sex with somebody, it's very silly. We know that this is that it didn't really happen. He's a baby, like he can't even talk. All these things are stretched out to an extreme. They kind of make it clear that people can't really understand him, or some people kind of can.
Yeah.
It's like an out of this world kind of scenario. Whereas in anime, like they build relationships and like they get into the nitty gritty of like the back and forth between the older woman and the young man, that kind of thing. So that's the difference. It's not like a unrealistic, unbelievable, like silly situation. This is like a deep romantic like love story between a grown-ass adult and a child.
Yeah, and I think
for me, it's the intentionality of like how the character is created. Like a manga artist putting down off from pen to paper the like underage girl body, and then like immediately trying to get as far away from it being conceived as pedophilia as possible. Whereas with something like Family Guy, it's like we had a character, they had a couple of jokes that they had, and then over the past 10 years, we've kind of just turned them into that joke, those little like subtle jokes that they had, and then it just turned ridiculous. Like there's a difference in the intentionality and what it turns into. That's what I was trying to say there.
It's the intentionality, but I think it's also the effect. It seems like there is a big problem with people not being able to draw the right conclusions about these things. Even if we could, even if we took the worst example, we said, oh no, it wasn't actually done with this intent. Well, if your intent is, that's understandable, but ultimately if the effect is to, have a bunch of people talking about how no, it's actually okay, we should lower the age of consent, that's also a really big problem. So I think the degree to which we consider it to be bad has to take into account both the intent and the effect.
Also, I would also add that the problem with lolly isn't just that there is a child character, right, in whatever you're watching. Like, nobody gives a shit if there's just a child character. The problem is that in most lolly animes, definitely coming of age and definitely rom-coms, the child character specifically is made to be a viable romantic interest, or at the very least a romantic interest somewhere in the background. Like, that's the problem, right? It's not just that the character exists, it's that the anime clearly wants you to understand there's a vivid possibility of that child character getting fucked.
And what is the reason, like, this is just me asking a question, it's not facetious, but what is the reason why this medium is allowed in Japan, or why this medium is allowed to be distributed if it's borderline child porn, if how it's being described to me today?
Japan's constitution, as it pertains to freedom of expression, is pretty loose, to put it lightly. But the thing is, they actually had a crackdown on child porn in Japan. They had a law in 2014, I think.
Yep.
And yeah, you also have to take into account that Japan before that actually had a huge problem with CP all over the place. And it wasn't until the 2012 crackdown on, the torrents and like P2P like transfers, that you see the police being able to build a case to basically put away the people that are doing CP in 2014 from the amount of information that they got.
I've been informed by someone in my chat that Stewie is actually, in a subplot, revealed to be several thousands of years old, a time traveler. So I think it's important that we recognize that Stewie is also a lolly, and probably the first male lolly that we've discussed on the panel.
Stewie's a lolly. Lollycon is on Fox. What shall we ever do? No, it's Disney now. Ooh, Disney. How are you doing?
Okay, Disney.
Okay.
Lolicon on the walls of the
Wait,
on the walls of
that
the-
would be a show to come.
as we speak.
Wait, Desperado, I have a question for you because I've been meaning to ask someone this, and obviously I could just Google, but only nerds do that. And since you're in Japan, I figured it'd be more appropriate to just ask you straight up. This is a little bit off topic for the panel, but I've read, and I remember reading this, right? So I don't think that it was. I think it might have been genuine. That one of the reasons why porn in Japan is still pixelated is because the legislation that makes it so would need to be brought down legally and politically, and nobody in politics wants to tackle the issue as to not seem like a fucking degenerate and lose support. Is that actually true?
Yeah, yes and no. The other thing is that what is it? The porn industry in itself is actually a really lucrative industry in Japan, and the thing is that Japan is really what is it like? It takes a lot politically for Japan to change something that's going to affect a certain amount of the electorate. They are super hyper focused on whether the electorate is going to vote them out of office or not. And this is one of those hot topics where they know that it's consumed at a considerable rate, but they don't know if that's necessarily going to be enough to swing people's votes during an election season or a
Okay,
snap
follow-up
election
question.
season.
Bear in mind, my Japanese is only basic level. What are my chances if I move there and run for the office based on the porn thing?
What are your chances of what now?
Of becoming the prime minister. Let's just go with that one. Let's aim high, That way there's no disappointment.
So unless you are native-born Japanese, you are unable to serve in any public office, whatsoever.
I'll rethink my strategy.
You definitely have the looks, but that accent's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
True.
I'm a convincing liar, though.
You're gonna get clocked. Oh my god.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, let's break it into the next part. Persona, various dating sims. We've got the same thing. People don't just watch shows where they romanticize characters. There are several very popular mainstream anime adjacent or anime, just strictly anime video games where you do actually actively have a romantic interest. Sometimes one that has reference to even more degenerate forms of porn, if we're talking about futaba, inside of these video games that you are incentivized to date. There's whole quest lines. I think one of the things you got to say is that why is it not illegal and why is it so abundant? It's because it's not so much of a conversation inside of the people that are making these things. It's a huge conversation here. We've got this whole rumor discourse going on, and it's at the center of the cultural focus.
In those games, you're role-playing a character of the same age. I don't think that really matters.
That's an interesting thing.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm sorry. For me, I'm kind of uncomfortable with 8-year-olds fucking. That's just me. I'm uncomfortable.
I thought we were talking about Persona. Sorry,
I don't
didn't
know what
realize we were
persona.
going
I
to
don't know
that.
what age the personas are.
They're high school kids.
Yeah, they're in high
Futaba
school.
isn't.
Oh, they're in high school.
Futaba
then, excuse
isn't.
me.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, Futaba's not in high school though.
So what age
Wait,
is Futaba?
how old is Futaba? Yeah.
Futaba is just getting out of elementary, I believe, or maybe still in elementary.
Really?
I think
So-
she's 13.
So yeah.
15 to 16. Hold on. That's not terrible for a high school kid. 18 and 15 to 6. That's not terrible.
Does anybody really believe the high schoolers aren't fucking each other all the
No,
time?
high
every chance they
schoolers,
get?
I'm not. Yeah, when you were saying because we went from lolly to this, so I was assuming that we're talking about little ass kids, but
You look at the
it's not
visual
children.
depiction of the character. Look at the character design.
I don't
It's
know
not-
what you have to show it to me.
You just
She looks like a petite woman. She doesn't look like anything.
Hold on, does she
terribly
look like a
young.
petite woman, or does she look like a lolly? Because that's a
That's
huge
what I. So
fucking
back to
difference.
my
Yeah.
She doesn't
point.
look like
I
a
don't
lolly.
want to see.
She looks 12.
It has more realistic graphics, but yeah, she looks about 12.
I don't want to.
Does
I
anyone
just
have
thought.
a link or something? Fucking hell.
I do not want that on my computer.
I don't know about a link, but I know Desperado Sensei is desperately trying to get in here.
Yeah.
Let me find one.
Polling data, if I remember correctly, from 2018 says the average age that a person actually engages in sexual intercourse in Japan is roughly 20.
Ooh, rough.
So maybe that's why they need a high school game. So they.
Chris, you might actually be native-born Japanese then. Your PM proposition.
Yeah, because we're not going to sit here and
I can
act
make
like
it work.
people weren't having sex in high school. Like, it wasn't me, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't hear girls in the locker room talking about how they were fucking in 9th grade.
Yeah, the thing why this conversation is like so separate though is because we're moving away from like the concept of lolly, right? Like here in the UK, for instance, you have a law where I can't remember if it's a law in the books or if it's a court precedent. So if somebody knows any better, they can correct me. But for as long as I think the difference in age isn't more than 4 years or like coming up on 5 years, as long as you get like the parental consent to fuck their daughter, you're good to go, even if she's like 16.
Yeah, that goes
But that's
back.
no longer lolly, right? We're no longer talking about like the concern of pedophilia. That's a whole different fucking can of worms. And we can do that one, sure, but it's not the purpose of the panel.
I think the problem with a lot of these issues is that it feels like there's no one thing that appears to like make the problem manifest. It feels like it's like it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? It's like there's a great prevalence of these things. It's not just a one-off. They appear to generally skew to being younger. They appear to be visually skewed to being younger. There seems to be a lot of engagement in the community with like pretty yikesy ideas about whether or not it's okay to be romantically or sexually involved with some of these younger characters. There seems to be real participation, and so like it's like some. None of these individual things are unique to anime. Even the problem itself of having this problem with sexualizing young kids isn't unique to anime, but definitely seems like anime does have a problem with this stuff when you take it like when you take a holistic view of the problem. And I think like I guess what I would be interested to hear is like, does anyone have any ideas why this is the case, right? Like I don't have a lot of experience, but like if you asked me, Flowtrace, why is it that 40K has a problem with like right-winger fascism? I'd be like, okay, I know exactly why. Let me take you. So there's this thing called the Imperium of Man. Like I could tell you exactly, but with anime, I'm genuinely curious. Does anybody have any ideas why it appears like is it just a selection bias that these people would have already been? That's a real possibility. That if it wasn't for anime, there would be a whole other community with the exact same people. Or do we think there's some unique like element? Maybe like 2% of the people that have weird stuff about children wouldn't have been if it wasn't for anime. I think that's like the really interesting and difficult question.
Well, I will say that for the people that are already interested in that stuff, the one thing that I've noticed being a content creator and things like that is that if one site gets shut down that you really, really like, you'll go find another venue, right? So removing one thing does not remove your interest in that. They will go find somewhere else to go watch it. So it's just they are already into that, so it's available, it's content, I'm going to watch it anyway. So there's people that already are bred like that, or they're already like that. Now, the whole thing about does anime make me a pedophile? I don't know. That's going to have to be a study.
I just want to clarify something because I'm not crazy, or I know that this exists outside of anime. All these problems do.
Exactly.
However, the community around anime seems to, I don't know how many other places this exists that has a community that is as tight and as expansive and growing the same way that anime does, which if it is a big problem within the community, that we're going to see it spread all over the place like we have seen anime do. Like if anybody has like another community that rivals the size and tightness that the anime community has, that would be pretty interesting to bring it up. But otherwise saying like other things have this issue, but I think we're dealing with a unique size and scale here.
I think it's just that we just know about it because they kind of are with a group of people that's like, oh, well, it's anime, and they hide it and oh, it's lolicon, right? And so they're hiding it and saying well, it's not actually children, it's animated children, so it's different. But no, I don't think there's I don't think we'll ever know about a pedophile union or a secret pedophile network.
I found one.
I don't think they raise their hand and advertise it. I just think that lolicon watchers are just a bunch of degenerates that like to vocalize it, where everybody else is into that disgusting perverted shit. They kind of keep it in house and just scrub their hard drive every day.
I mean, that I think also could speak to it, though. I mean, the fact that r/animemes or stuff occasionally does have a pretty yikesy meme upvoted that publicly. The fact that that is able to get that kind of traction, I think, somewhat does speak to the candor of a community, right? Sometimes people get into really silly debate sometimes about well, what is the opinion of r/live stream fails? And people are always well, you can't tell. It's a million different people. But the reality is there's a general trend about what gets upvoted and what gets downvoted. And I think it's actually somewhat telling that in lots of anime community, like meme communities, sometimes there's some pretty yikesy stuff that gets upvoted, right? If you posted that to like r/Family Guy, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but something tells me you probably would not be getting the same degree of traction.
Oh no,
Well,
I agree.
that's just cultural. Like that's just cultural norms that are within any community that's like hyper small, like well, hyper close knit like that. Where if you are a member of that, you are used to seeing X, Y, and Z. Maybe in the beginning you had a disgust reaction to it, but you've been inoculated to it from seeing it so many times.
I think that
And
cultural
then-
norm is probably bad then.
That's fine. That's more than happy to like. I'm more than happy to concede on that. It's just like that's why you're going to get those tight knit communities that are just inoculated to it. It is what it is. They've seen it a million times.
All right, we're gonna hear from Tuna and maybe hear a song too.
Oh, I mean, sure, I could go back to it if you really wanted. So I think the main reason that we got to think about what exactly is going on with the anime.
America.
The main reason you want to think about it, it's a feedback loop. It's a feedback loop because it's a type of cultural property made mostly for social outcasts who are developing biologically and have been pretty much, for one reason or another, whether that's a cultural reason or if it's just that you're the weird kid, if it's with the American children, it's an audience that trends towards any content that they can like find belonging in. They're developing sexuality, and they're going to develop a parasexuality if they're not allowed to be a part of the primary. I think that when it comes down to it, what exactly is pedophilia? It's a stunted form of development in terms of your sexual dynamic and your understanding of what is appropriate sex and not. It's a stunted understanding of self-age and relation to other people. I think what it is just it becomes a haven because that type of person is attracted to anime. They're gonna go towards some form of alternative media. They also go towards some other things. The same reason why does black metal have so many angry young men? I don't think that's making them angry. I think that angry young men like black metal. I think that at the same time, if you have an audience and they like something, and then the producers keep leaning into it, and suddenly we have a feedback loop going, there's mutual culpability. So
yes,
there's a situation happening there.
It makes me wonder, though. It brings me to kind of two questions. I've been wondering about the latter for quite a while now, and I don't have a very good answer, so anyone's fair game to like try and convince me. But well, first of all, how many people do we think who enjoy loli have a very rough time building and sustaining viable relationships with women outside of anime or like in their real lives? And therefore their attraction to loli is because to them, the emotional development that they have is on a similar level to the child character, essentially, because they're stunted. And where that leads me to with my next question is, okay, this is going to be a bit of a rough one, but put yourself in the mind of a loli connoisseur for a sec. And let's assume that watching loli porn is your means of getting a release while keeping your urges in check. Wouldn't that form of a release be a better alternative to one of those fuckers actually going out and hunting for actual kids?
Oh, yeah.
They use
and I
that
think this is
same
the difficult
yeah,
question.
they use that same argument with the type of porn where there's like aggressive porn out there where R-wording a girl or kidnapping a girl or things like that, choking a girl and things like that. So there are people that, and those get really huge hits, right? Like ones that are like very, very aggressive sexual content gets huge hits in the porn community. So in the porn community, their argument is, well, we're actors and we're safe and we can say stop if it goes too far. So it's better for people to see this and not do it to somebody else. Me personally, I think it's disgusting either way. I think it's disgusting to film a R-word scene, an aggressive R-word, and upload it. I think it's disgusting that people want to see women or men get aggressively R-word or be abused. I just think that's disgusting content. But that's just, that's just me. But like, I know one of the things that was in the topic was, does anime produce people to be violent? And I just think that's absolutely stupid, because if we're going to hit that with anime, then let's hit that with Superman and all the comic books too. Let's hit them all up. But we don't, right?
I disagree with you very, very much when it comes to what you've said about the CNC, let's just call it. Because the thing is, I understand it's just your opinion. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to like start throwing facts or anything like that. But so fetishes are kind of like the bread and butter of the content that I do. And the problem of porn, and that type of porn especially, is that they do not show you how to get to that level of rough play without hurting the person that you're with, and how to do it safely, generally speaking. Because porn is supposed to kind of get you off, right? It's not there as the building blocks to a healthy relationship. But the thing is, if you are into CNC, for instance, which is consent and non-consent, there's nothing disgusting about that. There's nothing wrong with you being into that type of thing. There are, however, very safe ways of learning how to do that with your partner, how to have the conversation of whether your partner's into it. If your partner's into it, and this will be, well, I don't know if this will be a hot take, because I don't know how much you guys are kind of interested in these kinds of topics.
You got my support, Chris.
A lot of women are into CNC. If you're in a healthy relationship with a cis woman, the vast majority of them are very much into CNC, which comes as a shocker to most people who've never heard this before, because CNC is one of the types of fetishes that we assume is like really fucking extreme, but it turns out it might not be at all. It seems to be the case that most people in a society are into it. The key, however, is to be into it in a way that doesn't fuck up your relationship and doesn't hurt the person you're with. But then there's nothing wrong with just the urge in and of itself, right? It's acting on that urge in an unsmart way, let's say. That is the problem.
Okay, so I would like to push back on that. So what you're talking about is when you're...
Just real quick, I just want to say, I don't want to get super heavy for anybody into like shaming any kinks that aren't involving anime in this panel. But you could still talk about it. Just maybe hold back on like this is like super disgusting, all that, if we're not talking about like the lolly or something like that. I don't want to get too far derailed.
Clarify.
People get emotional.
I would like to clarify my point. It's like what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people that it is a healthy environment that they're doing to what they do in their home, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about two adults that are in a relationship and it's consensual. I'm talking about content that you're picking a random person up and someone that's an incel that doesn't have a girlfriend. That's what I'm talking about. Now, at the end of the day, if you want to watch that and that helps you and gets you through stuff, that's fine, right? But I'm not talking about what two people are doing privately in their bedrooms and what kinks they're into. I'm talking about hurting random people on the street.
If CNC porn ever becomes as big as anime, I promise I will also do a panel on that.
But that was my point. I'm not shaming anybody what they do in their bedroom. I'm talking about hurting random people. That was my point.
I don't think you're trying to do anything malicious.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. But then at that point, that's just rape, right? Like nobody here on the
that
panel
was
is
my
going to defend
point.
that.
If it wasn't, if
at least I hope nobody's going to defend that.
If I didn't like convey myself correctly, I apologize. But that was my point.
I'm sorry, Tina, did you have a rape defense?
No. I was just gonna say.
Okay, you raised your hand when you said that.
Else, as a bit of a joke. Go ahead.
I know.
Yeah. Call attention to it. Why don't you?
I think
it made me laugh.
Thank you.
Sort of going off of Tuna Chip's sort of point about the sort of cycle feeding into it. That's super important to keep in mind. There's absolutely a selection, right? Like, there's a lot of people that, just to go back to the 40K analogy, that were already fascists. That's, saw, oh, 40K is about what? Oh, count me in. And that's a really big part of it. But I also think, it's difficult because at least as far as I'm aware, we don't really have very good studies on this. Because that's also just a really hard thing to study. But it isn't the case that we know definitively that there's no effect otherwise, right? Like, you're not going to take a person who's like, wow, I love Martin Luther King, he's my greatest idol. You're going to sit them down in front of one 40K game, they're going to come out the other side, and here's the thing about the ethno-state, like, that's not going to happen. But it does seem to be the case, right? But it does seem to be the case that, like, let's say it has a ability to move you a little bit, right? Let's say, it ups your racism stat by 2%, right? That, I think, does seem to be the case, at least with my personal experience with 40K and with lots of communities, right? Especially, when you're young and you're around friends, right? That the things that you get into can be very formative to your identity and the things that you like. So I don't think we should also underestimate the ability to nudge people. And even if it is ultimately a nudge, it can still be a nudge in a bad direction.
I agree. I would just say that one of the issues we have, and that's been an issue in the society for a very, very long time, is that in terms of censorship, there's next to nothing. There's more or less fuck all you can do to like stop people who really want to consume that type of content from consuming that type of content. So if anything, we would probably, if we wanted to alleviate this issue specifically, we should focus on the way how we have conversations about anime, right? Instead of like vilifying all of it like some weird fuckers do, instead make it clear that anime broadly speaking, is just a form of media. And as it happens to be with forms of media, there are certain issues and certain things to look out for. Like, for instance, if you start watching anime and you find Boku no Hero or My Hero Academia, beautiful anime, fun anime, do not get involved with fandom. They're fucked in the head. There are some issues there, and I don't know how to solve those issues in a way that is fucking TOS friendly on Twitch. Avoid those people.
Yeah, like,
And
that's the thing
neat
is
tips
that,
and
like,
tricks.
yeah, like, certain fandoms, it's just like
Tuna's after Diva.
I love House of Dragons a lot, right? But, like, some of the shit I see on Twitter, what the fuck?
Just Twitter in general.
Just what the fuck? Like, that's why I refuse to follow the topic, because, on Twitter you can just follow topics and you can see everything
That's a bad idea. Yeah, that is a
yeah,
pit
with
of sin.
House of Dragons, like, I'm on YouTube, so I'm not going to repeat the shit I've seen, but holy fuck, right? And I think that's something that I wish people that I understand that there's like bad in everything, right? There's bad in all forms of media, but like I just think that it's kind of unfair when people focus, like, because if there's one bad egg, right, then we have to get rid of the whole thing. It's completely inappropriate. Hide your kids, hide your wife, all that shit. And I just think that's completely fucked up and disingenuous, because we could do that with every media out there. So
Diva, what are you seeing about House of Dragons? I need to hear
I'm
this.
not repeating a fuck.
Come on.
We're going to hear from Tuna Chip, and then I want to hear what Lady Taco Head has to say about any of this. And also, Diva, come on. Everybody knows that you and everybody else who was watching that show was totally rooting for her to fuck her uncle the whole time. Let's be honest.
I wish that was the only bad thing I saw. I wish that was it.
Those were the days, right, when incest was the worst thing that was happening in these kinds of shows. Yeah, nowadays that's what you hope for. That's what you hope they will fucking finish.
Like the only thing that was like super weird to me was like, I feel like with that community with Cersei and Jaime, everyone was like, ew, gross, disgusting, especially with how it ended. They were like, ew, gross, disgusting, right? But with the uncle and the niece, they're like, yeah, fuck her. And I'm just like, yo, pause.
Well,
Oh, there's already memes. There's memes talking about
everybody
that.
was vomiting when we found out that Daenerys. I'm sorry if it's a spoiler. You had like years to watch. I'm sorry, but like everybody was like vomiting when we found out when Jon and Daenerys was fucking that was like an aunt and nephew situation. We were all like, no, gross. Like my whole shit that I always wanted. Like they're related, gross. So like everyone's like vomiting. No one's saying couple goals, but like with the niece and uncle, like.
They'd be doing that.
Taking her to a fucking whorehouse and pinning her against the wall when she wasn't even 18 years old. Yeah, go for it. Like, that's not grooming at all. That's called true love. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like how did we get here?
First of all, it's...
Shipping people were upset about them being related? They're not real shippers.
They were shipping them before.
They never cared.
Yeah.
They never cared.
I mean, I'm not saying that there weren't people who said, no, that's gross for, like, Danny and John, right? But my community was like, fuck yeah, show us more ass, John.
Fuck
go
your
for
ass.
it, mate. Let's go.
Yes! Fuck Auntie Danny. Yes!
All right, so it's we got to hear from Tuna. I know he's been really patiently waiting, and I said that we'd go to him next. And nobody can respond to this. We're going to go to Tuna, but it's obviously because both of the people were albino, like my wonderful wife, and everybody wants to see that shit. Go ahead, Tuna.
Asian opinion detected in chat. Asian opinion detected in chat. We must tell them. We must have them be shared. Their opinion must be shared. Here it comes. Genesis Lazy Duck. As an Asian, I find anime normally skips the development of a relationship. It's episodic, so people can gauge the scale of a relationship as it goes on. Normal relationships don't have that. And not just otaku are upset that people aren't as transparent and clear with feelings. Is there a connection between all forms of media that depict relationships, sexuality, and that's also what we were just talking about earlier with porn. We were talking earlier, the big thing that makes porn weird, and the big thing, I think that we might want to say, anime's got the same problem that all media does when it depicts sexuality and romance. It's all spectacle. You gotta keep people excited. You gotta get the blood pumping, and it's very relevant when we're talking here about all these dragon shows and all this weird shit. I don't know what the fuck you people are watching.
Fucking Targaryens.
In the end, what we're talking about is we should be thinking, is it content for adults or children? If anime was like a dragon show that was made for adults and it was on HBO only at night and things like that, it'd be less of a problem. But what's happening is that a lot of people are putting on something that in America has been considered to be for children, a cartoon. That's our conception. And we're being blended with a culture that says that animation is for adults also. So we don't have the necessary internal access to see the difference inside of our culture, but they do. That's the main reason, I think. And I just wanted to go to that explain the answer to the question long ago before. It's not just the feedback loop, it's also the fact there's such a fundamental difference of understanding, and it has the same problems.
Through that.
Yeah.
Alrighty, my man.
Yeah.
Making some salient points out here.
Surprisingly,
do we
I
get to
agree,
respond to that
says
one,
Lazy
or
Duck.
is
I've never had a bad opinion. Let
someone
the team-
Allegedly.
I'm
Does he?
beating every allegation.
Who is next to
Other than
Tuna?
that
We
one.
had an order. Who is next to Tuna? Who's after
That's
Tuna?
true.
After Tuna, it is Lady Taco Cat. Say something about this stuff. You said you want to be on the panel. You got to participate in the
Alright.
panel.
So, I just feel like there's a lot more detrimental media to our children than like anime, but I don't think anime is bad. I feel like there's a lot of good things that can come from anime, like just like team building, a lot of like anime characters, like main characters, like Deku and things like that, can be sought as from teenagers as like people to look up to and inspire to be. Anime is also just like really cool and flashy, so like it's a really good like eye catcher for teenagers. But also too, the little bad things that are in some animes, I'm not saying they should watch everything, are, are things like most of the time like kids are just gonna search for the bad stuff anyways. Like if anime is bad, maybe we should talk about how accessible like porn is. Because it's a lot easier to like download porn than it is to like download anime. But I just don't see it as something that I would consider like harmful to like children or like people. I definitely don't really see that big of a comparison between it and Lolly. I know like I can see like why people would think that. But I feel like also a lot of people that end up having those feelings are probably gonna have those feelings anyways, whether anime existed or if not, they just find like a different outlet.
I think if I can just so some anime is harmful to children. Like we've all agreed on that earlier. At least I think so. But the problem is that the way forward wouldn't really be to stop children from watching it through like banning anime, because you can't bubble wrap every little fucker on the planet and hope that everything goes well. Like anime with elements of relationships especially attracts a very specific subset of an audience. And these are usually, at least in my experience, red-pilled, emotionally stunted folks who are primed for watching people go from fuck you to I love you in the space of a 20-minute episode, and then actually thinks that's how it works IRL. And the problem is that if you want them to stop being like that, banning anime ain't gonna do shit, because instead of watching anime then they'll just watch more of Andrew Tate or Rich Cooper, and that stunted behavior is just gonna continue. Because the issues come from fucking everywhere in today's society, especially with our access to media. And then if you take all the media away from a kid, then you get like an illiterate fuck, and you don't want that either, right? Because media's kind of important nowadays. So like just banning anime ain't gonna do it.
I think it's really important to not just ban things that are problematic, but to offer good alternatives. And I feel like this is a much harder thing that we often don't do because we fail, but it's a really important 1-2 step. There are definitely some things that are worthy of being banned. But I think, like for example, like with Andrew Tate, since Chris brought him up, right? I think part of it, I think part of that phenomenon is the fact that there is a real appetite for advice to young men as to like how they should navigate a world that is rapidly changing, right? And absolutely, I think some of what Andrew Tate said was worthy of removal. But you need to then actually provide that alternative. You need to provide them like good examples, right? To go back to the relationship example, you need to show the media that has good examples of how to appropriately handle relationships. And I think that really it's really hard, number one, to just do that, and it's really hard to make it succeed, right? I think our media landscape reflects our interest in a lot of ways. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, it's no wonder to me that like something like The Marriage Story didn't do very very well with a lot of audiences, even though that provided like a very like much more realistic example of what a relationship can really look like. But man, it's hard to look at artists and be like, we're gonna need you to make this stuff that like will almost certainly lose you money now, and stop doing all the stuff that makes you like mega millions.
If you haven't seen A Marriage Story, go see A Marriage.
Is it the
Watch
one
it right
with?
now. It's so good.
Is it the guy? Is it the one with Adam Driver?
Adam Driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, unpopular.
Widow.
It's going to be unpopular opinion this panel, but Revolutionary Road was better.
Revolutionary Road.
Yes.
Seen-
Yes.
A lot of the problems that
I haven't seen either of those.
Yeah, no. Revolutionary Road is with Leonardo DiCaprio and
April Wheeler.
no. What was her name? She was in the Titanic. Is it Kate Winslet?
Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet.
Yeah, it was
No, she's under
Leonardo
25.
DiCaprio and Kate Winslet.
Oh, they did a second movie together
Yeah, it's called Revolutionary Road.
that
And
nobody saw.
It's excellent.
Thanks, Doc.
It's excellent. No,
Well,
she was
I
supposed to
know
get. She was supposed to get nominated for that, but she didn't get nominated for it because she was doing another movie. But yeah, if she wasn't nominated for that one, for the previous movie that she won the Oscar for the previous movie, but like yeah, it was split between her being nominated for that one or the other one for Best Actress. But no, it's an excellent movie. I feel like it's just my opinion. I think it's way better than Marriage Story and way better acting and writing.
I'm gonna have to watch them both because I haven't seen them.
To bring us back to what Flowtrace was saying, because like Flowtrace, I agree with you 100%, but the thing is that then begs the question, at least part of what you said, like, why is there an appetite for young men to receive this type of advice? And the reason I think why is because lefty fucks just rejected a discourse on men's issues because apparently we're the oppressors, no matter your individual struggles. And I feel like you ban anime and you do the exact same thing. All we're going to do is we're going to raise another generation of fucking cozy TV gladiators treating women like they're second-class citizens. And I just don't know if that's in anyone's best interest.
And I feel like that was
we run into the Hydra complex in which you cut off the head and 3 more take its place.
and that was back to my point of like, okay, so if we get rid of lolicon, something else will be born. You know, it's a
Maybe something
never-ending
worse.
thing. It's a never-ending.
I think
Trolley.
I think it's a bit of a balancing act. I think people on the left go way too far when they're talking about banning everything, getting rid of everything. But there's also a balance, right? Like if you look at most successful internet platforms, they don't just allow anything, right? Because if you don't, if you go the image board route, you will get overrun by a certain kind of content. And some people don't want that. So I think it's about finding where it is effective to remove content and where it is not effective to remove content. I think that's the real struggle, right? When we talk about banning Andrew Tate, that doesn't seem to have really done very much.
It's made him
right?
more popular.
Exactly. But then you look at like banning someone like Stefan Molyneux, and that was very effective. Or like Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Those are two people where when they got, nuked, their platforms went bye-bye. They never went.
That might not quite be the case, right? Yeah, with Milo particularly, it's incredibly complicated. Yeah. Well, he was not only cancelled on both sides, he's also done this amazing thing when the left rejected him, the right rejected him, and then he's gone and fucking cancelled himself by constantly fighting with his support staff. And it seems to be the case, at least from what I can tell, especially when a politics figure gets banned, they usually disappear altogether if they start fucking with their support staff. And Milo did that big time. Like the shit that he was getting into was fucking insane.
Where
But also
Andrew Tate was more of a content creator, I feel like. So I feel like it's different when dealing with canceling political figures.
It is, yes, 100% is going to be very different. It's also
Big part of Milo's was the fact that
Andrew
it
is
came
that,
from the right.
yeah, the problem with Andrew is that it's a lot harder to cancel someone who doesn't actually sit on the platform, but instead it's other people who like feature him.
Yeah, that was like my whole thing was because I felt like, and I know we're getting out of subject, but like I felt like with Andrew Tate, he was getting more in trouble with what he was saying on other platforms than what he actually said on his. That's how I felt.
Andrew Tate's also making evergreen content. Stephen Molyneux was pulling from a limited bucket. Stephen Molyneux became like he just didn't have anything else to say.
Yeah, and I think it's trying to identify those areas where banning is a good idea and isn't, right? Like I'm sure like everyone here is okay with like like banning like I don't know if any of you know like the epic pink crystal tutorial that used to get shipped around on certain image boards, but like I can imagine content that's designed to deceive people into literally self-harming would be something we would be like, yeah, you know what, that's okay to ban that, right? Or more explicit, right? Obviously if you go on Facebook and post literal child porn, you're going to get banned there as well. So the problem, the reason this is a difficult question is because the answer is somewhere in the middle. Clearly there's some things that we want to ban and just deplatform. Clearly there are things that we don't. If it was just all one or the other, I think it'd be a much easier question. The trouble is there is a line, and it's really difficult to know where that line is and draw it on a case-by-case basis. Okay,
so we have gotten pretty far off topic for like the last 5 or 10 minutes. I want to let you guys finish up. I know that as far as does anime lead to sexual deviations, I think we've gotten this pretty well hammered out. I seen that Desperado Sensei had his hand up for a little bit. I want to hear from him, and then I also want to hear from Liz Sama just on the whole anime and sex thing. If you guys have any extra thoughts on that, because I haven't heard a whole lot from you guys. And Desperado Sensei had his hand up, and after that, we're going to move on to the next question of the subject. Go ahead, Desperado Sensei.
With the Hydra thing is the when I had my hand up, but I got in and said it. So.
Okay. And then, Liz, you got something to say here? I see you making some faces and nodding, but I ain't hear the words.
Well, I was just gonna say that if you're feeling like having some sexual urges and doing them, you're not really gonna let anything stop you.
Facts.
I don't think that people taking lolicon away is going to stop you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. So
maybe
there is something to be.
Okay. I've got to reply to that, Chris. If you've got one, do yours first.
Yeah, same. That's why I'm just wondering who should go first. Because like I don't disagree. I just want to build on that because there is there's evidence, at least from what I've seen. There's some fairly fucking decently done research on the topic, especially of people who they just call them maps for the sake of nobody getting cancelled. It seems to be the case that if they genuinely fear for their lives to a point where they don't want to go and search for help because they're actually afraid that by speaking out on these urges they'll have the shit beaten out of them. What that leads to is them isolating in their own circles, and that apparently leads to like an actually demonstrable increase in the amount of child sexual abuse that happens. So like you want there to be enough stigma so that this behavior is never normalized, but you want there to be as little stigma as necessary so that these people actually go and seek help if they need it. That's all I wanted to say, just to build up on it.
Okay.
God,
I do appreciate that pushback, but
yeah, what's the sweet spot?
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Ooh. Careful.
I do want there to be enough stigma, towards lolly for there to be, some sort of disgust, towards people that want to find, that content so that they know that it's not normal,
I agree 100%, yeah.
So if they do go and search for it, they can find that help. But I don't think that the people that are gonna go looking for it are gonna just
they don't want help.
Stop.
They don't want help.
Go ahead, Tuna. What's going on?
Okay, don't worry. I wasn't doing that because I was getting impatient. I just wanted to entertain the chat. No, we shouldn't be thinking about whether or not Lolly is retaining or enabling or transforming people into pedophiles. We should be thinking about whether it's normalizing the idea of child sexuality with their victims. If you're seeing Lolly all the time and you're a child and then someone starts hitting on you that's of a certain age, you've had a normalization of the idea that relations can happen between people those two ages. We're not thinking enough about the child's agency. Children have the capacity to understand and, take in certain patterns that they're getting from their media. Maybe we should be more worried about that part. I think
especially when it's in a community that has proximity between them as well. I just want to add on to
that.
That's true.
It's another thing when it's being normalized by a show and then the kid and the adult are watching the show and they're being like communities. That is where I think it really goes off the rails.
Yeah,
actually, that's a lot of them. Yeah, that's a lot of them.
No, when y'all brought up maps, it reminded me of a panel I was on, and like I will never do another map panel for the rest of my life. It was like insane.
I'm terrible, Chuck.
You could not handle my line of work, Diva.
Like, no, I did it. I did it one time, and like for me, it's like, it's just like don't make an excuse for it. Like, don't be like I'm a map. Like, no, don't cute it up. Like that's gross. But like the things that was said, like it was just like mi cabeza. Like what the fuck? Like what did I?
It was a bit of a rough one. Like there were simultaneously people trying to absolutely normalize someone
Oh,
being
you
a
were
man.
in that one?
So
You were in that
we were both
You
there.
were with
so,
me
like,
on
I was,
that.
I
Oh
was
my
pushing back on
God.
the idea that, like, no, we can't normalize it. That's not right. That's not good. Like, what the fuck are you on about? And simultaneously, there was someone else in Wick's chat saying, like, well, what we could do instead is actually beat them to death with hammers. And it's like, no, what the fuck is wrong with you as well, mate?
No, it was like
every time this discussion comes up, there's like an army of people that are like, can I just add to the opinion, by the way, that I think we should murder all pedophiles and nuke them from orbit? I think it's important that be said. It's like, wow, amazing, dude.
Yeah,
you hate
that,
pedophiles?
it was a fucking
like no, like
conversation.
it was absolutely insane. It was like it's just a never again for me. I will never again. Like if I could like take that time of my life back, I would. Like it was rough. I forgot you were in that one with me, Chris. I forgot you were.
I had a slightly different setup going on back then. That was before my shit became as good as it is right now. Okay, I don't blame you.
No,
we know the reason those arguments keep happening. It's because as deforestation starts hitting its fever pitch, all of these wood chipper industries need to send plants into the discussions and say, oh, wood chippers are still useful. You just put pedophiles in instead of the trees. It's not going to work, guys. It's not going to work. We see through the illusion. We're not buying that wood chipper, buddy.
I should have put a wood chipper in the seat and go watch some anime during that debate. That's what I should have done. I should have put a houseplant in my chair and just let everybody yell at the houseplant.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next part. As much as I am very used to hearing the pedophile wood chipper argument being the primary person covering Mr. Grill content, we're gonna move on to the next section, which is we got the sex stuff all covered. But what about violence? I think a lot of us grew up watching some kind of shonen, even if it wasn't directly in our face. We were exposed to shonen at some point in our childhood. We've seen Dragon Ball Z. We've seen Naruto. We've seen Bleach. If you like the last two better than Dragon Ball Z, I'm sorry. Your parents didn't love you enough. Something happened bad in your childhood. But we see the kind of effects that young children watching WWE have. I have never seen children that love WWE. They weren't fucking each other up every single day after school. True. And then the other question is, which is probably the more contentious and scary possibility, not only does anime lead to violence, does anime lead to furries?
Yes.
Can I just add before we like do a deep dive into the topic? Dragon Ball Z is a little bit like Star Wars, right? It's like massively overhyped by sad boomers.
I think it was like the other day, and it was like so true. Like it's like one person said it was so true. It was like all black people like Dragon Ball Z, and like I just laughed because like you will see, like in my opinion,
because black people are cool.
Like you will see more black people or people of color with fucking Goku or Vegeta tattoos than anybody else. That's a fucking fact. Like when I had fucking movers here, like I had someone like covered in like Majin Buu, Frieza, Trunks. Like he had like everybody on his arm. Like if I had cash, I would have tipped him based on his sleeve. Like it was just.
I think there's also like there's a massively different connotation though, right? When you see a black person wearing a Dragon Ball Z t-shirt, you're like, hey, an anime fan. That's kind of based. You see a white kid wearing a Dragon Ball Z t-shirt, and you're like, that's a bit fucking cringe, mate.
You're checking for
like,
the fire.
I will say that I went to a convention once and it had like a full panel. It was like the first time in years. It was before they started dubbing for Dragon Ball Super. It was the first time in years that a large amount of Dragon Ball, like the American voice actors were together in one panel. So it was like a historical event. And it was before KamehaCon. And I remember the line, and it was the first time in my life being at any type of convention where I saw normies. It was the people that would have whooped our ass in grade school, and they were juiced up. They were like straight up like 7 and 10s above, and they were all rocking Super Saiyan shirts. All their motherfuckers. Like it looked like our bullies were in line. Like some of us got triggered. So there was like us, the nerds, in line, and then you see these juiced up motherfuckers saying, I'm trying to get to Super Saiyan God and some shit. And I was just like, this is where we are.
I do think, though, it's the best, though, when you've got, like, a combination, like, the fucking anomaly that, like, God bless these people. Like, I remember there was a guy in the gym that I went to for years, and he was, like, fucking yoked, okay? That man had trenbolone sandwiches for breakfast, dinner, and his fucking evening meal. Like, that was a Belgian blue of humans, okay? Man was fucking huge. And what he would listen to, the music he would have on when he was lifting was fucking anime openings.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
That's a
I want to
man.
point out, historically, Dragon Ball Z is cucked by its own fan base because they can't deal with change and Goku going away for his son to take
we fucked it up
over, alright?
ourselves. I
With every
agree.
fan base.
Mega cringe, okay? Write your story, stick with it.
Yeah, like that to me, I still disagree with the decision they made of not us moving on with Gohan. I know that might be an unpopular opinion, but I think the show would have been better off if we just
Oh yeah.
would
I
have
agree.
moved on. Oh,
He
I'm
was
not
cool
gonna
in the
get killed
movie.
for that opinion. I usually get killed.
I agree.
Yeah, because
Gohan can't carry the show. He just can't. He doesn't have enough detail into his personality or anything. They fucked him over too early on in the writing. They had it and then they dropped it, so they lost it forever. Goku
I mean, you
has all
want to
the
talk
story.
about a show that goes from being carried by one character. I mean, just look at Death Note. I'm of the opinion it never really recovers after, the one thing that happens in the middle of that show.
just say it. The show's like over 10
We all
years old.
know.
Listen,
We all know what
we
happened.
watched this like a year ago, okay? I don't want to spoil it, okay?
This is a weeb panel,
if the
motherfucker.
show
Who do you
is
think
like a
you're talking to?
It's a
We all
decade
I
know.
know there's
old.
one person here. I know there's one person listening right now who hasn't seen Death Note and
And they
wants
probably
to.
never
and to that
going
person,
to.
I say,
I feel sorry.
I
for
see you. I see you.
Well, you know what you could do? Tell them to censor really quick because I've watched the show. I totally forgot.
Okay, well, I don't need to say it because you already all know, so you know what I know.
No,
Just
say
say
I
it!
forgot.
Okay,
I
we.
Okay.
They don't know what you're talking about.
Halfway through Death Note, one of the main characters dies,
Oh,
and
true.
he is replaced by two of his proteges that take up the mantle, and they're okay. I mean, I
They're
think
mediocre.
Mango's Nier kind of sucks. Mango's cool, and then the show ends, and it never really recovered.
True.
I hate it when shows do that.
I got an argument
Nothing.
about the violence thing.
Nothing
There
is
you go.
worse than Promised Neverland season 2, though.
True. Actually, fuck it. That is the truest statement that has been said on this panel. Promised Neverland Season 2 is a crime against humanity, and the people that did it should
I think
have war
Sword Art
crimes committed on
Online
them.
was a complete
And then Tuna.
crime. I think Sword Art
Who
Online
skips-
was a crime.
Who skips a whole manga arc for an anime? Like, who does that?
Manga arc, they skipped everything.
But that's
They
what I'm
skipped
saying.
all of it.
Apparently, a lot of people do that because we've had the same fucking shit with a handful of other animes, right? Like Tokyo
That's
Ghoul was a good
ridiculous.
example of them just skipping
Yeah.
arcs for no fucking reason
They
as well.
did it
Yeah.
to Overlord.
Tokyo Ghoul was ruined.
Yeah, they did it to Overlord, but they skipped the newest season. I think they skipped 2 chapters, but apparently they're gonna make it a movie.
Okay,
the
so we're
movie
gonna
that's
go to
coming
Tuna,
out is gonna do that.
and I'm sorry that I got triggered.
We all did.
My wife knows exactly what to say to destroy my brain. Okay, I just want to say that
Neverland
they
season
condensed. They condensed 94 chapters of the manga into one character saying what fucking happened while also
Oh,
changing
I
it and making
hate
shittier
that.
and worse.
94?
Nice.
At
Yeah.
least. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Go Tuna. Don't ever watch it.
No,
Okay.
yeah. I hate telling, not showing. I know that some people do that, but I hate
Hey, Tuna sounds very feminine right now. What is that about?
telling, not
I sound
showing.
less feminine right
No,
now,
like
actually.
I was reading a book and it was like it would have been an amazing scene. It was a Star Wars book. It would have been an amazing scene showing how badass Ahsoka was because she stopped being a Jedi for a whole year. So it was like the first time she used the Force in over a year. And instead of just telling us how she fucked everything up, it just basically ended with, and they got away.
Wait, what book was it?
Ahsoka.
Oh, it was just
Liberal.
called Ahsoka. Okay.
The book was called
Listen
Ahsoka.
up.
Yeah.
Do we agree that an increased density of weapons on the street increases violence?
No.
People get shot up in New York all the time. You can't even get a gun in New York.
Okay, but people get shot because there's a gun in New York. We agree that the presence of weapons is necessary for the violence used by those weapons, correct?
Well, they try to get
No.
rid of all the weapons, but then there's the black market.
Who are the primary
Yeah, that's the
purchasers of katanas?
You broke
Huh?
up, Tuna. You want to say that again?
Who are the primary purchasers of katanas?
Oh, that's easy. The Subway
Weebs.
Samurai. God rest his soul.
Weebs.
R.I.P.
We know for a fact that anime is going to increase violence. It's putting samurai swords into the hands of 20-something-year-old Subway sandwich makers.
Yeah, but it's
across
not going
the
to increase
world.
violence. It's going to
You
increase
leave my
self-harm, right?
merch
Those fuckers
alone.
don't know what they're doing.
You keep
He
my
wasn't
merch
a
out of this
sandwich.
conversation.
He wasn't a Subway sandwich maker. He used his katana to dispatch enemies on the subway of, I believe, New York City.
All I gotta say is when Yu-Gi-Oh was around, they were trying to make Yu-Gi-Oh problematic. I don't ever see how it's problematic of ending a conversation and just say let's duel. I'm just
Let's duel.
saying
Well, yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh
let's go.
deserves an apology.
Agreed.
You obviously only have seen the American version of Yu-Gi-Oh, and you have not seen Season 0
Okay,
or Yu-Gi-Oh!
obviously,
GX Season
yes,
4.
obviously they were sending people to hell, but I'm just saying, kids.
It's more than that.
You know what I
more than
mean.
that. It's
You know
okay,
what I
though.
mean.
His grandfather sexually assaulted Taya on the regular, okay?
It's true.
I'm sorry, Tuna, go ahead.
No, it's
Yu-Gi-Oh's
okay.
fucked.
Not Grandpa!
Yep.
Damn, Grandpa, you nasty.
I thought you were talking about the hell thing. I didn't know Grandpa should have been on the list.
Still
I
tip of
thought-
the iceberg.
Okay.
Grandpa needs to be on the list.
You know, you might
Tuna.
want to be careful with the hand symbols because you're like 2 fucking inches away from something we don't want on Twitch, okay, my
I do
guy?
have a question. Is
Those
Grandpa
symbols have
worse
never
than
been
Master
associated with
Roshi?
anime before. Not once.
Yes.
Not even
in the
once.
history of the
True.
world.
Grandpa's worse than Master Roshi?
Master
Tuna,
Roshi
that's
never
not-
assaulted a
Tuna,
child.
That's not true.
Grandpa
Master
did.
Roshi
but
never raped anyone.
Wait, Grandpa was doing that?
He sexually assaulted. Tuna. Tuna has the floor, you guys.
Grandpa!
Said at their family reunion, Grandpa was doing that. No,
Grandpa! We gotta
when
talk.
I was a kid, when I was but a child, I was in a group of 3 friends. That's all we had, and we were constantly playing video games, watching anime, and we would go out. We would find lead pipes, wrap them in duct tape, and swing them at each other. We cannot pretend that the violence that is depicted does not look fun. It doesn't look based. It is based for one. And I'm over here trying to make a fake Buster Sword out of scrap metal found by the side of the road. You're going to look at that and say that I'm not doing that because I got influenced by anime? Now, what am I going to do otherwise? That's the other question. Is it the most dangerous media? Well, we got to say, children watching things that are all about fighting, we were all fighting. Yu-Gi-Oh!
Let's
Not
do
as
it.
bad.
The thing
I
is,
will
Tuna,
put that.
what you're making out, like that thing is too big to be called a sword. Too big, too thick, too heavy, and
unwieldy.
too
So
rough.
you
It
failed
was more like a
already.
large
there?
hunk of iron, okay?
You
Really?
Really
failed.
thick.
Senpai will not accept that.
Regardless of if it's a sword or not. Because really what it is it's a bunch of
Wait, hold on,
sheet
you got
metal
the
and a lead
reference.
pipe.
I'm questioning your weebness right now. Tell me you got the reference, or you're fucking out of here, mate.
No, what do you...
Bro.
I don't know that reference. I'm mostly a
Bro.
video game weeb.
Senpai won't accept you.
Oh, he's right. The B.
Senpai
the B
is
anime
kicking you
has
out.
never
I've only watched
gotten-
like 5 animes, guys. I'm gonna be honest.
the B anime has never gotten a good video game, so of course he wouldn't know.
I even though they gave like in the past a lot of great Sailor Moon games, I still want them to remake Sailor Moon Another Story because that was a really fun RPG game. It was a lot
Based.
of fun. And
Okay.
Okay, I played Dark
Violence.
Souls 3. I guess it has had a good video game.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
triggered.
Wait. Check his chat. Check his chat. Somebody
No,
said. Somebody told him.
no.
Somebody
You
told
don't
him.
even have to. There is
Somebody told him.
That is in the video. For one. My
Oh,
chat.
I'm looking.
go look,
Because
go
I've
look.
got a feeling.
there.
Hold on.
He's-
I've got a feeling that unless we go back on topic right now, Desperado sense he's going to take our 6-shooter and he's going to speak to us differently. Okay?
I was
Wait,
saying,
Chris, you did it. Chris.
I just think it's bullshit to blame
Wow.
media for violence.
the things that people say about your people, you just go and
Can I go back
my
to the
God.
topic?
Will you go back to the topic
I'm
though?
trying to.
Are you though?
Yeah.
I mean, people have been blaming video games for violence.
That's what
for
I was trying to
forever.
say. Like people were attacking Mortal Kombat.
You're right.
People were attacking
And that shit ain't true.
Call
I
of
said that in my
Duty.
opening statement though, so I win by default.
Yeah, because like I think they try to blame Marilyn Manson and I think they blame Mortal Kombat for Columbine.
They did.
Like they really said fatality was the reason why them 2 boys did what they did. Bullshit.
Doom, actually. It was Doom. And they actually said it themselves that they designed the school in Doom. So if we're going to say that it doesn't, like, it's not just about the anime, it's about technology, it's about the internet, it's about the spreading of all these things. People are becoming more violent, and it's based. The problem is when we don't have control over it and they don't, funnel them into the military-industrial complex. Next person.
Well, what
To
I
be
will
fair,
say
what-
is that there's more violent media in Japan than there is in America, and they have less incidences than we do.
I
So,
want to say.
I wonder
what-
if the
what-
guns
gun
have
argument.
something to do with this.
One moment. I think Tuna's point was totally lost here. What he was saying is that his
Are there two
personal
tunas? What the
experience,
fuck?
There was 2
Tuna
times.
chip, bottom, middle. Oh, okay. What Tuna was trying to say, I'm pretty sure, Tuna, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think we sort of skated over your point here. is that when he was a kid, he saw the cool sword fight shit on anime, and him and his friends were like, we're absolutely gonna fucking do that shit right now. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if it's a stick. I don't care if it's a pipe. I want it to be as close to a sword as I can find on the street, and we're gonna fucking smack the shit out of each other with it. And I know what you're talking about because I did that shit too. Me and my buddies, one of them was a fucking football player. One of them would fall over if you looked at him too hard, and then there was me. I was just a regular ass fat anime fucking kid. All right, we were all fucking beating the shit out of each other with sticks. Yeah, maybe. So I think that's what Tuna was saying. He's saying, like, here's a direct link from watching anime leading to violence, but violence using weapons on each other because that shit was so cool they could not help themselves but do it. Now in video games, the video games let you do the thing. The anime is showing you something that you don't get to do in the video games like that, and you want to do it. You want to be them.
Well, they're saying that with video games like Call of Duty, I think it's a bullshit, but this is what they're pushing in the media, is that Call of Duty is actually teaching people how to shoot guns. I think it's bullshit.
It's fascinating.
This line of questioning and this kind of like idea about video games, anime, and all this stuff has been in American politics since the 80s, since the start of when they created video games. So even things like pixelated, like Contra, was viewed as something that was completely violent, even though it was literally just pixels shooting at other pixels on a screen. Nothing that remotely looked human in general. And like this has been a thing with comics as well too. Like people may not know this, but in like the 80s, the comic industry in the United States was completely had to get like a special stamp in order to actually release comics because they might be too violent for the consumers and whatnot. So I think when we look at this, and I also want to say, I'm old as shit, and even before like anime was actually introduced into my life whatsoever, even before Toonami, even before Fox like Kids and whatnot, we were still doing this out there without that influence directly from that source. So this is not necessarily something that is just exacerbated by anime or just done by video games.
Yeah, like I remember when the Superman show came out, the one, I forgot what his name was, but like obviously he's no longer with us. There were reports of kids jumping off the windows with capes, pretending to be Superman and getting really, really hurt. And Mr. Rogers found out about it, and he did a whole episode of why you shouldn't jump off your house with a cape on. So this has always been a problem. I'm pretty sure in the 70s and the 80s when Star Wars came out, I'm pretty sure there were kids trying to be like Luke Skywalker. I'm pretty sure that people were trying to use the Force after they saw Yoda lifting shit. So
hey, I still do.
Yeah, I'm blaming, because I hate Kylo Ren, I'm blaming Kylo Ren for everything.
You never know when your powers are going to kick in, right? I try every morning. I don't even like Star Wars, but I'm not missing out on actual magic powers just because I don't like a fandom, okay?
But like it's just like, again, it's just like I just feel like with people that want to shit on anime, just say you don't like it and shut the fuck up.
Well, I want to turn the tables.
This isn't about talking shit on anime, though. This is about just recognizing for a fact that when any piece of media is marketed towards children and it has violence or sex in it, if it has anything and it makes it look fun and cool, they're going to imitate it.
That's the thing. I want to turn the tables on this narrative that like violence is bad and these kinds of things. I want it to be more violent. And the reason for that is I want it to be realistic violence. I hate implied violence. I don't think it's cool. I think it's cringe. I hate when characters say, I'm going to destroy you, when clearly they wanted to say kill. I do not like it when someone gets killed, cut, harmed in any way, and it's either like it cuts away and doesn't actually show it, because you need to see that. You need to see what the effects of these actions have on other human beings. I don't like it when it's completely dramatized, unless like that's what you signed up for. Like you're looking for the fountain of blood popping out of somebody. If that's what you're looking for, hey, more power to you. But I think legitimately we have to show the results of these actions. That's right. Yeah, it's cool to beat the shit out of each other, but hey, you know what? Blunt force trauma, you can really fuck somebody's insides up really hard, all right? And that's why when you look at Mortal Kombat and you see their kills, when somebody punches someone, you see a bone break and you see the blood going in there, it's like, ooh, yeah, that's dramatized, but yeah, that might what be going on in there right now. So when I look at stuff like in anime and all that, where there's violence and it's either implied, it cuts away, or it's like completely and utterly over the top, and to the point that it's silly, I think we kind of need to be a little more realistic about the consequences of doing things like that.
Yeah, like G.I. Joe was heavily censored. They didn't want G.I. Joe in air, so that's why I think they removed bullets and turned into lasers. And
Yes, they did.
they had very, very strict guidelines, and that's why at the end there was always a moral of the story or something that you should know, like why Sonic the Hedgehog at the end would be all like, "Don't smoke," even though the whole episode had nothing to do with smoking cigarettes. For whatever reason, at the end, Sonic needed to tell me not to smoke cigarettes. It didn't fucking help.
Sonic looked cool smoking a cigarette. What can I say?
I think it was Tails that was smoking and Sonic flipped out. I don't know for sure.
Desperado Sensei, you're up next. And then after that, if anybody has anything to add to what Saku's, should anime be more realistically violent so that way people know if they try to imitate these sword fights or like super big punches that they know that that they're going to actually maybe kill somebody. Maybe Goku shouldn't have gotten brought back. Maybe his skull should have been split open on the ground with his brains leaking out and everybody around him crying as he's rushed to the hospital and finally doesn't come back. If anybody has any comments on that after Desperado Sensei, I'd love to hear it.
So there's actually a really funny thing that's happened in Japan over the last, year and a half. When did Demon Slayer come out? I don't know exactly when it came out. When it came out
3 years ago.
2019, I think.
Yeah, a smash hit in Japan, not only with the intended audience, but also with kindergarten children and nursery school children who absolutely loved the characters of Tanjiro and Nezuko. And the thing is, they would act this out. Like, some of these kids had never seen the TV series whatsoever, and the parents had never seen it. They've only seen the characters on TV.
Okay.
You do not know the blowback when it finally came to TV and parents let their kid watch it.
Jesus Christ.
I know there was a scandal with his
my God.
earrings. I knew there was a scandal with his earrings and they changed the art in the anime.
It is worth to mention, though, that you cannot start training to kill demons too early.
Right.
I think.
Aren't you a demon?
Hey,
Maybe.
the Catholic Church is letting people in today.
Hey,
Sign
I'm
up
into
right
kink
now.
play, okay? We can schedule something.
Ooh.
Chris is
Got murdered.
not a demon.
I think the point that Watsuku is making is really interesting because I think the reason why it is important to sometimes show a more realistic depiction is because it feels like sometimes you cannot trust the audience to not take something too seriously, which almost feels like more of a problem with younger audiences. I think actually the real locus of danger is young adults, teenagers, right? Because that's where there's actually some real potential for them to actually fuck up their life. And it's almost weird where you are okay with unrealistic depictions of oh, he punches him and he gets up, he's fine with adults, even though traditionally we think of those more sanitized and softened images as being more typical of children. And I think it is really hard to create a piece of media that cannot be irresponsibly interpreted. And I wonder where the line is, we say, for people interpreting things badly, or even if there is a line. I would think of something like the Dave Chappelle show as something, I don't know about you guys, but my introduction to the Dave Chappelle show was on racist image boards where people were yeah, look, this is based. It's awesome. Dave Chappelle hates black people too. And it was just and it's Jesus Christ, right? And Dave Chappelle has talked about how I think he's mentioned getting the wrong type of laugh, right? That he actually regrets some of his skits because they were actually weaponized by racists. Yeah, and I wonder, would we say there's a line where you couldn't have reasonably known that they were going to interpret this badly, or do we just say it's only the effect that matters, right? If people are interpreting this badly, then it's got to go, full stop, even if it's something that no one could have possibly predicted.
I would like to comment, to my understanding, and I might get it wrong, the sketch that he had an issue with was the race pixies. And the issue with the Dave Chappelle show is did he have some control with the writing? Yes, he did. But some of the sketches he did not write. And he read the sketch of the pixies. He was uncomfortable with it. and he did not like the joke, and he was forced to do it, which was one of the reasons why he walked away. So I think, like, as like a comedian or anybody like that, is that you can have a line, and if your line is, hey, this pixie thing is way too much, I don't want to do it, then that's his line, and his line wasn't respected. I have seen the pixie sketch, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty brutal. It wasn't even just towards black people that the sketch was inappropriate. I think the sketch in general was inappropriate as fuck. So, yeah, like, and then also another reason why he kind of had an issue with the Pixie one was that the writers that wrote it, they were all white. Now, I'm not suggesting that they were racist or anything, but I can understand why someone would feel uncomfortable someone writing that and saying like, oh, it's okay, it's a joke because you're doing a stereotype pixie. And no, it was bad. Like, I saw it, it was pretty bad.
Another example would maybe be the Boondocks, especially how after, I think it's Aaron McGruber leaves the Boondocks, how the show transitions and the characters almost become parodies of themselves. I'm thinking like Uncle Ruckus in particular almost starts actually legitimately being a racist character as opposed to, arguably what he was meant to be as like a way to, expose racism.
Thing is that kicks into play with like sort of the writing and someone taking over, right? But on the note of what Saka was saying earlier and what you were saying, like realistic depiction is also useful in anime because vast majority of anime today has no stakes. Like there are no serious or permanent consequences of anything. There's no need for like a deeper level of thought. There's no need to actually worry for the main character. And I feel like I don't have a favorite anime per se, but in my experience when I watch anime, the ones that stay with me for the longest are when you have like actual stakes and actual reasons to worry for the character, when you understand that there's a level of consequences that stem from the actions of like the person that you're watching. And I'm not sure if you guys ever watched Kiseiju or Parasite as it's known in English, but there is in like a huge fucking a spoiler alert, but like whatever, the thing's like 10 years old. There's a moment where, because there's like an alien invasion, let's just say the main character sends his parents out of town, and because of him sending his parents out of town, the mother of the main character gets murdered and then possessed by one of the aliens, only to return home and then grievously wound her son, who's the MC, because he was unable to like handle the fact that she is no longer his mother and wasn't able to defend himself. And I feel like if we establish, at least to a certain level in anime, that when you do shit, all the shit tends to happen, instead of no matter what you do, no matter how you act, there's always going to be the heroine that comes in, saves you, fixes you, and you'll be happily ever after. Like, it'll probably help the people watching the anime, because then it kicks into what we spoke earlier about with setting false expectations. And also, we haven't spoken about this yet, and I don't know if we'll have the time to today, but maybe at some point in the future, there's like a weird layer to anime of like very inherent sexism that just doesn't sit well with me. And there are very few anime who don't do this thing where no matter how strong the main character is, or like one of the important characters, if it's a woman, then just like that, it's going to be a damsel in distress. And there is going to be, like, even if it makes no fucking sense, every anime that I have ever watched, maybe with some like very niche exceptions, the female characters in that anime are usually not really characters fleshed out as characters should be, but they're like tools for the main character to become a more fleshed out version of themselves, which is just kind of fucking bullshit, right? Because it's just not how it works IRL.
Desperado Sensei and then Diva. I know Diva Sailor Moon, but you can still say it. And Desperado Sensei.
I was going to say something else too, asshole.
I'm just teasing. Desperado Sensei and then Diva. Go ahead. You can respond to, I think you're responding to Chris.
Yeah, I'll respond to that, but I have to break down something that would probably take me a good 5 to 10 minutes to explain into some short things. There was a recession in 1992, which made it so people that were going to college could not actually get jobs, and they were almost unable to get like corporate jobs, which is tied to like marriage and tied to like family building and whatnot, for almost 15 years. And what basically happened is that they created an entire community of people that were disenfranchised from the Japanese, the Japanese dream, like the American dream. And these people basically, became some of the major consumers of like manga and anime. And what happens is that the manga artists themselves are very in tune with what tropes the audience is actually really into. And because the tropes of what the audience and the intended audience is into, they actually build the stories and characters around that. so that like you have a main character, like male character, that is completely fleshed out, like almost in its entirety, but you have a female character that becomes that damsel in distress. So that is basically playing into this entire generation that has basically, what has it been, screwed over by the Japanese economy, and they've never fixed the problem.
Fucking
Go
Japan
ahead.
at it again. I swear to God, every issue we talk about with anime ends up going back to Japan. What is it with that place?
Who is next?
Diva go, and then yeah, go ahead, Diva.
What I was gonna say, like, when I do agree that I wouldn't say just in anime, but in general, I do feel like we need more of issues of there's consequences and characters going away and things like that. Like the first show that like I kind of witnessed of Fuck Around and Find Out was what was it called? It was a zombie show that's on AMC. The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead was the first show that I really watched that really showed that there's consequences to shit, right? And when a character dies, it stays dead. But I will say, like, regarding like strong female characters, I do agree that there are issues with that, with damsel in distresses and things with that. I will say the first round of Sailor Moon when they did the 90s, they did show moments of Sailor Moon being a bad bitch, but she was really like damsel in distress several times. But I would say in the manga, it's very, very clear that she is that bitch, period, in discussion. And I do think that kids should see real life consequences. Like, I feel like we should. I don't think it should be like overdone it, but like little things like the one memory that I have, and they didn't even do this in the original dub because like with Sailor Moon, there's like they censored the fuck out of it in America, and it wasn't just in America; it was other countries too. But they actually let this scene go through, even though they censored a lot of the deaths in season 1. Where one of the villains dies, and you knew he was dead, and there was like a whole crying session, and the show did not end with a happy ending. Like that was the end of the episode, like the guy's dead, and you knew he was dead. It wasn't like we think he dead. We think he died. Like no, he died. He died. We're crying. We're mourning, and that was like in the beginning of season 1. And like, yes, people should be like we should protect our kids, but like, I'm sorry, like things like that. Like I think every once in a while we should have sadness. But, like, I don't think that kids should watch, like, really gory graphic shit. Like, I'll speak for myself. When I was younger, my dad would show me, like, really, like, gory, bloody shit. And it caused me to have night terrors. And I had to go to a child psychologist. I was unaware that I was having night terrors. But apparently I was physically kicking in the air and screaming, and my grandparents had to get me out of the bed and hold me and console me. So I don't think we should show that to children, but that's just me. Like, it fucked me up really, really bad. But I do think we should have realistic, and I do think that we should, like, not baby our kids, because, like, I know, like, with Batman Beyond, like, there was, like, one episode they removed because of 9/11, and I think it was, like, a plane exploding or something. And we saw a lot of that during 9/11. Like, a lot of shows got censored after 9/11 that was already drawn. Which I think
Metal Gear Solid 2 had to be like entirely remade.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so like I think we're kind of getting, but like kind of get off a tangent on that. The one thing that frustrates me is like you're gonna censor television shows because of 9/11, but like 9/11 wasn't even 5 years old, and they were shitting out 9/11 movies left and right. I didn't watch any of them. Like there was like one movie with them. Under the Rubble. There was one movie about the plane that they said, let's roll. Like, they were, like, shitting movies after 9/11. It was even, like, 5 years old. Like, they probably, like, made those movies in a month, which I thought that was extremely weird. I'm like, okay, so you're going to censor cartoons, but, like, let's shit out these movies. Okay. So, yeah, like, I do think there should be some censorship. Like, I don't think a 5-year-old should watch John Wick, but I do think that there is nothing wrong with us saying goodbye to characters and things like that.
So on the note, I just wanted to add, like, on the note of you having a strong reaction, maybe kids should go through like a single mental breakdown during puberty just to get like their shit on the road, you know? Like the good introspection of I'm a fucked up adult and I need help is only possible if you're a fucked up adult, right? We've got to get you there first.
Yeah, Butterfree, like when I think it was Butterfree when that Ash let go, that Goodbye Butterfree episode, that fucking sucked.
Bro. Wait, Diva, have you seen Revolutionary Girl Utena?
What?
Have you seen the anime Revolutionary Girl Utena?
No.
I highly recommend you watch it. If you like anime about that bitch, get on that.
Make sure to
ASAP.
put it in the chat so I can add it to my list so I'll remember it.
Will do.
I was gonna say, please, that one's okay. Please save all anime recommendations for after the stream shuts down. We will be here all night, and that's all anybody will
Spy
hear.
Family's amazing.
So we got about a half hour left here, and if anybody's got to go, they can go. As soon as I'm done talking, we're gonna go to Liz. We're gonna go to the last one, which is a little bit more lighthearted and fun. I think we have some pretty good ideas about the violence. We're gonna talk about, does anime lead to furries, and if so, does this change how we feel about what we want to do about anime?
I think Chris
and
needs to
also,
talk.
Oh,
we're gonna get to Liz first, and then I think Tuna has something to say before we shift topics. But I also just wanted to say, done a good job keeping myself out of the conversation. But Naruto did a really good job of having a strong female character for like 2 episodes at a time, and then she gets hella nerfed by everybody else getting buffed way the fuck ahead of them. They can't write female characters either, but like at least they tried.
A for effort.
Yeah, they tried.
Go ahead. Oh God. Oh, so we're gonna do Liz, Tuna, then and then we're gonna go on to furries. Go ahead, Liz.
So, as far as female characters being damsels in distress, there was this one manga that I read that actually stood out to me because it started off as one where you think that the main character is going through this like coming of age story and he's trying to save this character, and you think that it's going to be this regular trope of damsel in distress, and it ends up being the most traumatic story you've ever experienced in your life, and it's called Good Night Poon Poon. Okay.
Oh my god.
His name is Poon Poon. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but
I thought you were going to say
unfortunate
Modica
name.
Magica. I'm still traumatized from Modica Magica. I was so misled.
oh, I've heard about that one too.
No,
but
it's a misled.
this one, I really liked it because you don't usually see like a coming of age story from a young male's point of view where he's like this really awkward kid and they don't give him like an actual human's body. He's just like this avatar. So he just looks like a little duck. He looks like a duck. But he literally is just an insecure human. But what I'm trying to say is he has a very traumatic life, and the characters in his life are also flawed humans that have traumatic lives too. But the trope of damsel in distress is one that you think he's gonna fulfill, but it never actually happens. Because this girl is not the actual damsel in distress that you think she's gonna be. So,
oh my god, that
yeah.
just triggered me from Overlord. That triggered the fuck out of me. Oh my god, I'm not over
Yeah.
Overlord. I'm triggered. That triggered me.
Girl,
So bad.
if you want some more trauma, go into it.
No, I wasn't ready for that final episode of Overlord. I'm still not over it. I went to the vape store to go get vape, and someone said like, "Oh, I watched it too." So like we just had like a grieving session over.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what the fuck are we
I wanted to
watching?
get my last recommendation out there because I have to go. I have to work tomorrow. It was very nice getting
I'll
to
let
know
it go
all
because
of
you're
you.
dipping.
Yeah, I'm dipping. So I had to get my recommendation out there.
Yes.
It was
Have a
nice
good
meeting
night.
you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, Drazi.
Thank you very much for
Nice
coming
to
by,
meet
Liz.
you.
Oh,
Bye, y'all.
Liz.
Yes.
Go ahead, plug yourself again real quick. Tell people where they can find you one more time because there's more people here than there was.
I'm Liz. You can find me. It's at youtube.com/Liz Sama or something. Just search me on YouTube. It's Liz Sama's Chaos.
Liz Sama's
Bye.
Chaos on YouTube.
Bye.
Have a good night, Liz.
You
And then we're
too.
gonna thank you. We're gonna go to Tuna, and then we're gonna go to Flow Trace, and then we're gonna go to the furry infestation problem.
Oh god.
Hey, I'm gonna pop out to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. Sounds good.
Keep that audio on.
Okay, so let's listen in real quick, see if we can get a little splash before we start this conversation.
So are we moving on to the furries?
No,
Well-
no, no. I just wanted to see if we could hear some piss before I started talking. I wanted to get my last bit in here.
We're doing tuna, then flow trace, and then we're going to furries.
Oh, God.
Speaking of tracing some flows right now, can we hear anything in the background?
No,
No piss. You must have muted. Okay, sad story. I'm not super convinced about this idea that exposing children to graphic depictions of violence, which will traumatize them, is actually going to make it so that they don't go in the direction of wanting that thing. I have the personal experience of having watched the movie Misery, where there's the if anyone doesn't already know, it's a kidnapping from a fan of a writer. She ends up breaking his leg, and you watch his leg get hit with a sledgehammer, and it's turned me on ever since. And I think it was probably one of the epigenetic points of my relationship between violence and sexuality. Is if we're worried about anime making furries, if we're worried about anime making violence because it's not graphic enough, the first thing you got to think to yourself is anime ever going to be detailed enough? Doesn't that seem almost like a critique where it's like, kids shouldn't be watching anime, they should be watching fucking John Carpenter films or something. It goes out of the field of it. And I also just, it's going to give them sexual neuroses that'll be with them for the rest of their life.
I'm sad. I was gonna make the joke that was the first time I ever got an erection was when I seen those legs break. You beat me to it.
So instead of anime, kids should watch Kathy Bates torture a man.
No, I'm saying you should probably not expose children to trauma because it usually gets internalized and transformed into the thing that they do with somebody behind closed doors. It's going to
expose
set them
them
up on the
to
wrong
it
start.
in a controlled environment. You got to carefully give them the scar so you can take them back. That's the whole play.
I'm gonna just go again. You know, we're talking. You know what that movie normalizes? Borderline personality disorder. Let's talk about furries.
So,
Well, wait.
So
we
I
have
was
to hear
going-
from our actual furry.
Okay.
first.
too.
Yeah, I was going to wait real quick. I was going to
No.
jump off real quick. I was going to jump off because it's getting late. And also I have nothing to add to the furry conversation because I have no idea about furries and anime. Like I really don't. So it'll just be me sitting in silence. Sorry, I can't add to the conversation, but I'm going to jump off. But thank you guys for having me. And can I plug myself?
Yes, and also Diva, thank you very much for coming on. I was so excited to have you.
Oh.
And if you had fun, I will absolutely include you in my
I had a lot
future
of fun.
shout outs for future panels. I love your energy. Please plug yourself to say your bit, and we'll I'll miss you very much.
Well, thank you for having me again. So I am Daphoenixdiva. I am streaming on Twitch and YouTube because of all the weird shit that's going on YouTube. I'm trying to revitalize my YouTube channel that I've pretty much abandoned. So if you haven't already, subscribe. I'm also on Twitch, and I also have a podcast called For the People in the Back Podcast. All the information on the podcast will be on my YouTube channel, and you'll see a big button that tells you, For the People in the Back Podcast, come to this YouTube channel because it's lonely. Click it. It's a good time. I'm uploading a video after I get off here because I did not want to upload a video while streaming. That's a bad idea. So I'll be uploading as soon as I get off. But yeah, so that's all I have. Sailor Moon's amazing. Sailor Venus is the best girl, and Watch Spy Family is fucking awesome.
Oh, Diva, one more.
I'll just real quick. I just wanted to say, at some point in the future, give me like 25 minutes, and by the end of it, you'll not only be super fucking knowledgeable about fairies, you'll be one of them.
I don't want to be a furry. I don't want to be a furry. No.
Oh no, trust me, you do. There is a world of pleasure I'm going to introduce you guys to.
Did you have to say pleasure? Holy shit! I don't want to be a furry. No, I don't want to be a furry.
Before you go, I have one really important question for you, Diva, and then I will release you from this this torture prison we've kept you in. Have you followed me on Twitch yet? Because you totally should. It's free. It's free.
You have to give me your Twitch link.
I will 100%. You should follow
And then
me.
I will follow you. How about that? Well,
Okay.
I can't host you
You got
anymore
it.
because Twitch took that away because they're geniuses.
Yeah, that's dumb. But do you stream on Twitch too, or just YouTube?
You did not listen to my spiel. How dare you? I say I stream on both. How dare you?
I just missed that
Raid.
part.
Raid.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh well, you're definitely on my raid list now.
My spill was ignored.
I just heard the YouTube. I'm hard of hearing too, so but my bad. I thought
No
you did.
wonder
I just
you
wanted to
like
confirm.
me. You have a hard of hearing. No
Big
wonder you like
ableism
me.
on display here. Not a good look.
Oh yeah, sorry, Twitch, I was muted. So yeah, if you want to send me your links too, I'll put them in the YouTube description with everybody else's links.
I absolutely will.
You got it.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Alrighty then, everyone. Let me see if it's this one, and it's this one. Okay, so Anime Chris, you're late to the class. You're late to the class, and hit the like button if you haven't already. Anime Chris, what the fuck? Hit the like button. My mod being late. How dare you? Anyways. I still have to cook my lunch for this week. I haven't done that. I still have to upload the podcast on YouTube. I haven't done that, but it is on Anchor. So if you haven't listened to the podcast on Anchor, please do so. I am talking about how everybody is comparing. There's people in the streets that are comparing Angelina Jolie to Amber Heard. Yes, people are saying that Angelina Jolie is the new Amber Heard, and we're going to talk about it. Well, I did talk about it. I did, and it's on the podcast. So check out, if you want to watch it on YouTube, you can. Just wait about an hour. It'll probably be up within an hour, hour and a half, depending how YouTube wants to behave. But check it out about an hour and a half, or you can listen to it tomorrow morning. Anchor, it is up on Anchor. So let me know what you think about the podcast. I think it was a good podcast. I think we got a lot. We got into the whole Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt Bradgelina realness. So we got into it. So if you're interested in that, check out the podcast. I will be back on Twitch tomorrow with Bayonetta 2. Clearly, I have internet now. If you guys were wondering why my Friday's show was canceled, Spectrum has decided to all of a sudden notice that the router that I was using was a router that I found in a box that apparently used to belong to them. I don't know. It was just a random router in a box. And I used it for months. And used it for 8 months. No one gave a shit. They care now. So I had to get a new router. So internet is back on. So that's why I couldn't stream on Friday, because no internet. And there's a Wednesday. I was driving home from the beach. Girl, I'm jealous. I'm a jelly bean. But yeah, that's all the show that I have for you. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. If you haven't hit subscribe, hit subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification bell, make sure to hit that fucking notification bell, because I will be on YouTube now. So Bayonetta 2 will be playing that this week on Wednesday. So this week it is Monday. Is it this week? Or did we do that on Twitch? But no, we'll be back Bayonetta on Monday on Twitch. We'll do it on Monday on Twitch. And then we'll be back on YouTube. No, I guess I should do it on YouTube, because the last time we played... No, we played Bayonetta the last time on Wednesday. So yeah, it would make sense for us to play it on Tuesday on Twitch. So yeah, we'll be back on Twitch on tomorrow. So we'll be back on Twitch on Monday. And then Wednesday YouTube, then Friday Twitch. So check out Bayonetta 2. That will be on Twitch tomorrow. Anyways, so I gotta go. And I will see y'all on Monday. And remember one thing. And hit the like button before you leave. Remember one thing. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.